Have you hit
All
the
right.
red button?
I'm about to hit something. There
I
we
just
go.
heard the little voice.
Did it tell you to go buy something?
Not yet. You guys do
That's
that
coming.
enough.
We do, don't we? All right,
It's going to
gents.
cost me more money later this year. Thanks.
You're welcome in advance.
Here we go. Welcome to the Ham Radio Workbench Podcast, your biweekly deep dive on technical topics of interest to the radio amateur. Well, thanks for joining us. If this is the first time you've been here, we have over 241 episodes in the catalog. You can find all of those on your favorite podcast player or go to our website, hamradioworkbench.com. You can also follow us on Facebook. The group is Ham Radio Workbench, or come over to Discord. And you can get our Never Expires link off of our webpage and come over to Discord and chat with all of your fellow listeners and ourselves. And we talk about what's on our workbench and portable operating and all kinds of craziness. So look forward to see you over there. You can also chat with us live and direct on the Brandmeister DMR Talk Group 31075 and All-Star Node 55915. So with that, we're glad that you are listening. Today we have a really fun topic. It's no special guest today, which is kind of unusual for us. It's just us.
It's a special.
And well, we're all special. You know,
Very.
as they say in Lake Wobegon, we're all above average, right?
I thought we determined last time I'm no longer special.
Well, that's why I said we have no special guests. So don't
Okay.
don't be bucking for special status, buddy.
All right, fine.
All right. So even though you are the celeb.
Yeah.
Okie doke. So today on the show, we have Paul WD9GCO. Hello, Paul.
Hello. How are you?
Doing wonderful. How are things in the center part of the country?
Cooler today. It's been in the mid 80s to 90s and 147% humidity, but nasty storms came through and it dropped down to like 70 today. So it's actually cool enough to go do POTA this weekend.
Oh, so you do POTA even if it's like sweaty weather?
Oh, no, not when it's 90 and 200% humidity.
Okay.
Wimp.
Okay. Good. Well,
Absolutely.
very good. And also we have Vince VE6LK. Hello, Vince.
Good after evening noon.
And I really should have started out with you as our special guest because the topic of today's show is building your Go Kit, and in particular, a fresh look at Go Kit design with our very own Vince VE6LK as our guest of honor. So I guess I need to promote you to special guest, not
Okay.
just regular,
Just for this time, though.
just for this time.
Yeah, we don't want to swell my head.
No, we don't. And we also have Mike VA3MW. Hello, Mike.
Hello, George. And you know what? I want everybody who's watching on TV or YouTube to notice that Paul has more graphics than any of us,
Yes, he
including
does.
me, which isn't hard to do.
That is because Paul has a green screen because you do not want to see the mess that's behind Paul's green screen.
I had to close the drawer behind me, but I'm at the remote, so I have a green screen, but not here. But anyway, I haven't been here for a while, so glad to be back.
Yeah, it's glad to have you. We're glad to have you, Mike.
you.
So you were in Germany at Friedrichshafen,
I was
were you
in
not?
Friedrichshafen, I guess on the last one. Yeah, that's almost a month ago now. It was awesome. It's such a, you guys are gonna have to go and give up field day weekend.
You know, that's so hard. Because field day is field day, man. It's hard to give up field day, much as I really want to go to Germany for that event.
It's
You
a lot
know,
closer, too.
they have these things called boats, and you can
Beer.
put a trailer on a boat and ship it to Europe and drive around and do field day with your trailer there.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Anyway,
That's true.
It's such a class act, I guess. So,
Are you going to talk about it when we get to the workbench
How
section?
about I talk about it on Workbench?
That's a great
It
idea.
gives me time to make notes about it.
Try to remember what you did while you were there. It was such a haze.
Yeah.
And also we have Thomas K4SWL. Hello, Thomas. Who's muted?
Just still muted.
I am
There it
muted.
goes.
I'm kind of new at this whole online thing here. So yeah, it's good to see everybody.
How are things in North Carolina?
hot. We came back from Canada a couple weeks ago, and I mean, I think even by the time we were in like New York State, it, it felt really hot.
Hmm.
And down here, like today, the past couple of days I've been gone over toward the eastern part of the state, where I think yesterday we were driving around, it was like 102 degrees with probably 4,000% humidity.
Oh,
Our buddy Mark would just like melt. It was really hot. It's brutally hot.
Man,
But
that is that.
I still
That's
did
not.
I did some POTA though.
Oh, the humidity's taking out your internet link.
Ah, let me turn off my video here real quick. We have been having some bandwidth problems, but I did do some POTA despite the hot weather. It was probably I went with my buddy Roger in for GF yesterday. Was that yesterday morning? It was yesterday morning, and we went to a POTA site and before it really cranked up the heat. And he picked a nice breezy spot on the lake, and we were under a shelter, and it was just idyllic. So
Hmm.
it can be done in these temperatures.
Yeah, I'm just not into that humidity thing. I can't stand that when it's hot
Yep.
and humid. But more power to you, buddy. I have a couple of quick announcements to make before we jump into the show. So that's a very special little announcement here I want to make, and that's that Eric 4Z1UG is back producing
yay.
QSO Today podcast episodes, and I was so excited to see the new episodes drop in the feed. And so I've listened to the latest two episodes, and Eric, we are so happy that you're back
Yep.
and producing new content. And with all the stuff you've been through this last year, we're just so grateful that you're back doing it and feeling good enough to actually do some producing. And we look forward to the next 500 episodes. So from all of us here, we are so happy to have you back. So, yay!
Yeah, I
So
was happy. I was happy to see that show up in my podcast reader. And I'm like, oh wait, this is a new episode. It's not a repeat. And it's like, good deal.
yeah, exactly. So if for some reason, if you're the one listener who's never heard QSO Today, you need to put it on your list of podcasts to listen to. And the reason I really highlight Eric's show in particular is that he's really building a bunch of content of really for the next generation of hams. I mean, there are so many great interviews that with people who have done so much stuff that's interesting in ham radio, and to learn what their background was. So ham radio is always a combination of kind of really cool history and also new technology and looking forward. And so a lot of what Eric brings is a bit of both, where he's bringing the history and some interesting folks, and also talking about which way amateur radio is going.
And for some reason, he thought we were important enough to be guests. I think we've all been a guest on his
Yeah.
show, haven't we?
Yeah, go figure. I mean, there's a point in time, Mike, when you kind of run out of ideas.
We got about ideas, right? Yeah.
And dragging the bottom of the
There
barrel.
is that.
He was cringing right before he made the first call, right?
You want to talk to me? Okay.
Exactly.
Eric,
I'll tell
Eric
you
is
what,
just
though.
such a great guy. He's just a wonderful fellow.
I'll tell you what, as a guest, though, he does an incredible job of working with you, because it was
Mhm.
my early days of okay, tell the story.
Right.
Yeah.
He kept nagging me, you're not telling the story. And
I think the thing that he really figured out early on is that the content, the sort of technical bits and pieces are useful and interesting, but the most interesting thing is when it's wrapped around the person's story. Because as a listener, hearing what's going on is one thing, but understanding the person's journey through how they learned the thing and the first time they tried it and what they did when they were a kid, or how they got in the hobby or whatever it is really the interesting part. It's like reading a biography. The biography is not just what the person does, it's really like the person's journey. And so you get a lot of that. And so I think that's why it's so great. Now, and by the way, that's in a field of a lot of other good podcasts. I love listening to ICQ podcast. I like listening to what is it, Vince? APDZ YouTube
Portable
channel.
discussion zone. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great one.
With Red Summit RF
Yeah.
is really good.
DX
Anyway, there's
Mentor.
DX Mentor, Bill's fantastic podcast. So yeah, there's just a lot of really good content out there, and I really appreciate Eric's effort to chronicle all of this history of amateur radio, which is really so very important for us. So anyway, we're so excited to have you back, Eric. So maybe we can get you on the show here sometime in the near future and chat about how things are going.
That'd be great.
So that's it on the announcement front. So with that, what we're going to do is do a round of what's on your workbench. Then we're going to take a break. And when we come back after the break, our special guest, Vince, is going to talk about putting Go Kits together. And then after he talks about his approach, then if there's anything left to say, the rest of us are going to chime in with anything else we could imagine talking about on that subject. And I was thinking this is going to turn into kind of a nylon bag extravaganza. But
welcome to Bag Talk, a division of Ham Radio Workbench.
It's better than lawnmower talk.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. So Paul, we're going to start with you. Okay. So what's on your workbench?
Well, one of the first projects, and this has been going on for quite a while, I've been working with Mark on this. Headsets are a long, complicated topic, and they're very personal, and there are a bunch of different kind of headsets. And I have never been super comfortable with any of the ham radio related headsets I've tried on. And years ago, I got several pairs of these, which are Motorola branded David Clarks. And the reason I like this particular one is because this is behind the head. The tension band is behind your head, and then it hangs on your head with this cloth strap, which is very popular in racing for a lot of people, because you can put that on and then put the hat over the top of it. I've built a couple. A friend of mine and I would used to go to races, and he was stuck in a wheelchair. So he'd be down in the infield and I'd be up in the stands, and I wired up a set of Motorola HTs with these headsets so that we could communicate during the races. And I found out that these, with the gel pads and the cloth covers over those, are super comfortable. I mean, I could wear those for like 2-3 hours at a time with no fatigue. So I just fell in love with these headsets. And then when it came time to start setting up for the ham radio stuff, and especially for OHIS, I wanted to use these. And I kept having problems with them because these particular ones come with this weird little military microphone element, which is either 5 ohms or 150 ohms, and either way, super low output. And we were not getting enough output to drive the stuff. So after playing around with this for a month, Mark and I finally decided what I'm going to do is what I ended up doing with the previous ones for the GP300s is I've got little electret element mics, mic elements. Yeah, that's the words, that I'm going to solder pigtails to, and I'm just going to use some silicone glue and use this as the base for the mic. And I'm just going to stick the mic element on here because it all gets covered up with the foam windsock anyway, and then wire that and rewire these with a different connector on them so that I'll reconfigure my OHIS stuff for an electret, and then I will no longer have level problems.
So those headphones look like the kind of headsets the guys wear when you see like the NFL, on TV, and they're down in the whatever.
A lot of sports and racing, and stuff.
And they always have like, it looks like are those those kind of headphones?
Yeah. And they're super comfortable, and they're popular because the bulky part is behind your head, and it's just a cloth strap that's up here, so you can wear whatever hat over the top of the headset instead of clamping the hat down to your head with the big band on the top.
I'm impressed, George, that you recognize that from a sports ball.
I know.
TV show.
Well, you know what a sports fanatic I am.
Same here, actually.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I remembered the 3 letters NFL. So I don't want to blow my cred, but that was about as good as it gets.
So I just got the mic elements just came in, and I've got new cable. I'm not married to the electronics in these things. I am married to the physical part of the headset. So I'm going to gut them and put in the electret mics. one thing I did, because a lot of these have a push to talk button on one of the ear cups, and I hate that. I'm never going to use that. So I took that out. And one thing I learned when I had a Heil headset for a while is Bob put a little phase reverse switch in the ear cup. And I always thought, Bob, that's why. It's two mono two mono speakers wired in parallel. A phase reverse is going to do nothing. He said, trust me, try it. So I plugged them in and I'm listening to a signal. I'm like, all right, fine. Because common sense tells you that if one mono speaker is out of phase, nothing's going to happen. Oh, no. Oh, no. No, you flipped a little switch and all of a sudden the signal jumps. And if it were just two speakers in front of you, nothing. But with the brain in between the two ear cups, it does stuff. So I put a little double pull, double throw switch in both of mine in place of that push to talk button and put the phase switch in. And man, does that make a difference sometimes. When you got a station that's down there in a noise, you flip that and it all of a sudden it just changes and your brain goes, oh, I know what that is. So
it's also really good when you have like a really long session and you're just on the air for a really long time. Flipping that phase switch just kind of
sometimes changes the noise contour. Yeah.
It's not really diversity, but
it does. It's just less fatiguing.
It's good enough to make your brain think it is, and by far. And my college instructor told me this in 1977 that the brain is the most powerful DSP processor you have in your toolbox.
That was right after they discovered the brain. So
Well, heck, it could decode CW.
Yeah. So that's my project for this weekend, is to get those two rebuilt, because once I get them done, then I reconfigured my two OHIS user adapters, and then I can start testing some stuff that Mark and I are working on. So that was the whole thing holding it up, was not being able to get enough level out of the mics on these headsets. So and I've got the version 2 prototype of the open source radio adapter that I'm trying out on my G90 Go box. So I'll finally be able to put that through its paces and report back to the boss.
So Paul, you have a homework assignment from me, and that is that at some point when they're in stock, I need to get the Mark's contesting, I forget which version he calls it, but
version 2.
What even the name, the contesting console?
Console.
That thing. So I need to figure out what bits I need to set up the station for field day.
Okay.
And when I ask Mark what I should buy, he tells me about the hysteresis in the feedback loop. And I need to get a part number and a price.
I can do that.
Would you kindly translate into a recommendation of what to buy?
That's what I did at Hambench, and I did. And if they ask those questions, I point and I say, "Ask the smart guy." I said, "I know what parts they are, and I know what you need." He's the guy who can say why.
Okay, so, I need to talk to you, not him. So
okay,
with all due respect to Mark, you need to advise me what I need to go buy.
Yeah. You better hope he doesn't listen to this show.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure he doesn't. Okay, so the next project is, remember, in the last time I was on, I was talking about donations to clubs. When you have some silent keys and stuff, the family of the one I'm working with right now donated that Go box, which has an 891 in it and an LEG 8100 and some stuff, and it's really sweet. The contents, I'm just not crazy about the way it was built. So I'm going to gut it, and I'm going to rewire and change the layout of there are some things I want to change to make it more useful for our club, keeping together the main guts of it, but just setting it up differently in my mind a little more efficiently. So that's my next big project, is to kind of rebuild that Go box and then take it out and put it through its paces so I can show the club, say, hey, it's working. So
have you used the 891 in the field? I know you have an 857, but have you tried the 891?
I just did. My friend Mike and I just did an activation last weekend, I think, or the weekend before. We used his 891. Nice little radio. And I realized that if something terminal would happen to my 857, I can either go find another one, or I think I would, because I have never used the 2 meter and 70 centimeter bands on my radio. So, I mean, I can live without that. And the 891 seems to be a really good progression off of that.
Mhm.
It is. I started using that for POTA stuff because it's smaller and lighter weight than some other stuff for a 100-watt radio.
Mhm.
And except for the fact there's not a waterfall, or rather a spectral display, that's the only downside. Except for that, it's a great radio. I mean, for the price, it's a great radio for especially
Yeah.
for portable use.
Now, you know what would be awesome is if somebody could develop a small radio like that that could do like 200 watts with the current of like a 50-watt radio and have, you know, maybe software defined stuff in it. And I think that would be an awesome thing if somebody could come up with something like that. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just putting that out there.
not gonna happen.
What would you call it, Paul?
That's something spacey, maybe.
Something Aurora Junior.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my thinking. Is I want the little POTA Aurora. So
You know, in all seriousness, if we want to go down this rat hole a bit, I'm not speaking out of line for work or anything, but you know, if you sit down at the lunch tables, why would you go back and now do transmitters at HF in the old technology, right?
Yeah.
George, you asked this question on the pre-announcement day, right? So
Yeah, it was the first thing that popped in my head was like, I don't really need a 500-watt radio, but I'd love to have a 100-watt radio using that technology that's small enough to be portable.
Yeah.
And so that just seems like it'd be very compelling for a lot of reasons. Size, power, the whole thing.
yeah, low weight,
Mhm.
low
heat.
low heat, low power consumption, and a crap load more power. It's sort of like, how did you do like that? Those don't fit.
I think that the biggest technical challenge, I know we're Vince, increment rat hole counter by 1 unit.
Yes, sir.
I started it.
The biggest challenge I could think of, and I asked Steve this question, was well, that's all fine and dandy to run the thing at 95 volts or whatever it is for, you know, with a home 120 volt power supply, but how would you do that portable? I mean, would you have to, you know,
Bring a generator. Hey, as you saw, I've said this before, right? As you probably saw at Seaside, maybe you didn't. If somebody can haul a hot water 101 to the surf's edge
I heard
and
about that.
operate
Yeah,
a
no
tube
kidding.
radio,
True. Paul, what else is on the bench?
Let's see here. Real quick, when I've had one of Heil's speakers for a while, and I'm really happy with it, but it's you know, it's being fed the wrong way. It's being fed off the speaker output of the radio, and so you're getting the amplifier noise from the. So I recently, like 2 days ago, acquired his parametric EQ, the PRAS.
oh, I wish he had done that in stereo.
Yeah. So I got that, and I just set that up last night. I looked at the pinout because on the 590S you get line level audio that bypasses the headphone and the speaker amp off of the accessory jack. So I bought a 13-pin DIN plug and put the little bitty wires in and made a cable to get that into there. And I was experimenting with levels and stuff last night, and I like it. Now, coming from the professional sound, the live sound world, I mean, I know what a parametric EQ does and I know how to mess with one. So it's just a matter of learning what settings here. And it's amazing. It's much easier than trying to tweak the settings inside the radio. And I was like last night going, oh, I'd like to spend some more time with this. I would also like the bands to turn back on so I could hear stations. But once that happens, I really would like to spend some time getting familiar with the controls on this because I'm really happy. And I think, and I'm going to have to check with Mark now, the best way to feed the audio from the radio into my OHIS box here. But so
for people who don't know, can you describe what this thing is?
My EQ?
Well, the Heil product, which I presume they're still making, right? This is still a current thing.
So for receive audio, they got two different things. They've got a powered speaker, which has a very clean amp in it. And it's a two-way speaker. So it's got a woofer, which is like a 4.5-inch driver. So, but I mean, it's communications. You don't need, 50 hertz and a tweeter. So then there's the parametric rec parametric receive audio system, PRAS, which is a parametric equalizer. So you're probably more familiar with a graphic equalizer where there's one slider for each little frequency band, and you just adjust up and down. But a parametric EQ is you have a control where you're surgically adjusting certain frequencies. So you'll adjust a frequency control that sets where the center frequency of this section of the EQ is, and then you've got now these don't have all of the bells and whistles that a full featured one does, where you can set the Q, which is the bandwidth of this particular filter. So it can either be exactly at 200 hertz, or it can be 200 hertz with 100 hertz either side, whatever. And then you've got a level up or down at that frequency. So this has it's got a high cut and a low cut, and then it's got really parametric controls for the mid range. So it's got a frequency select, because the high cut and the low cut are a fixed frequency. So if you got a lot of staticky noise or something, you can roll that down. If you got a lot of low rumbly stuff and you got stations down over here that are going just off, you can cut those out and you can narrow it down. Where you really need the control is in the mid range, where the voice is. So there is a control for the frequency and a control for the level. So you play with the frequency and you find out where that person's voice is, and then you can bring that frequency range up or down in the overall mix to clarify that what you're listening to.
So let me ask you a practical question. This is Vince. This is not a rat hole. This is just clarification.
Yes, it is.
That's fine. The rat hole counter's not going up yet.
Thank you. From a practical point of view, the fact that I don't own one means I should go buy one because I don't have one. But however, there are sometimes when you get something and you go, well, it probably makes some sense under some corner case situation, but for the most part, does it really make a difference? And so I'm curious, in your like day-to-day listening to the receiver, do you think like, man, I would never not use this thing? It really makes things sound great. Or is it like, well, maybe there's a case where it's helpful, but not much?
You know what? I mean, I will have a better, I know in my mind that yes, I know what a parametric EQ is capable of. I only got this plugged in and running last night.
Oh, okay. So it's not, for some reason I thought you had it for a longer time.
No.
And
I'm familiar with it. I've known some people who have them, but I know what a parametric EQ does. I use them all the time in live sound. But once the bands come back up, so there are signals to play with, then I will spend some time here in the shack. And I have a feeling, because just from what I could hear with my ability to control QRM and QRN and just pick out a few stations that I could hear, that when you're really trying to pull somebody out of the noise, it I think really will make a difference.
Yeah, I'll agree. Yeah, I've had one of these for 5 years now, and I bought it at a time where I had the venerable Kenwood TS-130 Sierra on my desk, and the 130 Sierra has very limited audio controls, very limited pass banding, and so for me, this was an outboard piece of audio gear to help me improve my listening experience. And as I've had various radios over the years, FT857, FT450 from Yaesu, Elecraft KX3, now a Flex 1500 on the table, they've all been plugged in through the PRAS into a set of powered studio speakers. In my case, I didn't have the Heil speaker. And what I have found is that I reach for those controls on the PRAS first, because they're more convenient than trying to jack around with a slider on a computer or figure out which menu level I need to get into on a Yaesu or whatever. It just puts that control at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know, and you can roll off that static at the top end or roll off the woo woo woo, as Paul has said, very quickly and easily.
and my experience, okay, so my 590S has essentially high cut, low cut on the front panel. You can narrow the frequency, the bandwidth of what you're hearing, but I've never been super happy with the quality of what it leaves you with.
Mm.
So leaving it wide open coming out of the radio and being able to shape it with the analog controls, I think is going to make a big difference. So,
And did you pair that with the Heils powered speakers?
yeah, I've got one of them.
Oh, okay.
I got lucky. I was telling Vince, I went to a local ham fest last November, and I'm just walking around looking at stuff, and I see on a table, I see a box with one of the Heils speakers in it because I've been wanting one, but they're not cheap. And I'm looking, I'm going, well, this one's really clean. It's only got a little scuffs on it. It's got all the bits and pieces. I said, I wonder how much. And I looked and I saw the sticker and it said $45 and my wallet could not come out of my pocket faster. I said, yes, yes, yes. And the guy behind me goes, are you going to buy that? I said, sorry. Yes, I am.
Yeah. Now,
Oh,
you don't have to pair this with, the Heil speakers. Sorry, Heil Sound. If
It's
I'm
true.
breaking any secrets,
Any powered speaker.
any powered speaker will
Speakle?
work. Speakle, and you're tuning for what you like, so you're not tuning for sonic accuracy, and that's why
Right.
it works with any speaker. So I have a set of M Audio BX5As
Those are
sitting
good.
on my bench. Nice studio speakers. I've rebuilt the power supply in them a couple of times because the electrolytics tend to be a little bit undersized, and they last for about 3 years, but that's a different story entirely.
Yeah, no, he's
It's
exactly
great.
right. It's an equalizer that sits in between your radio and a speaker. So
so this might be a good topic for a show, and we'd have to have Mark on here so he could weigh in on the audio
For
fidelity
sure.
side
Yeah.
of things.
We don't have enough tape.
So, I didn't say I would be here, but Mike. Okay, Paul. Anything else on the bench?
Just a couple quick things. I've been one of my main POTA antennas for a while has been the Chameleon 17-foot whip, which works great on 20, but I never got their coil for the bottom because it was Chameleon makes really good stuff. They also charge really big prices. And I couldn't justify that. But then I saw Wolf River made that little sporty 40 coil, which is right in my price range. So I just picked one up. So this weekend I'm going to take that out with put the rig expert on it and see with a couple of radials hanging off of it how it does on 40, and then tune it all the way down and make some measurements. So that's the project for this weekend. Hopefully I just recently picked up an all-star hotspot, so I'm going to try to, I found out that you can't just get into it and change the settings. You have to generate a new boot image for it with your stuff burned in. So I'm going to try to get that done.
Mm.
And one thing I'm hoping, it all depends on the conditions, is I picked up one of these.
And describe what it is.
That is
CTR Mini.
the Lynovation CTR2 dial, which is, now I also have...
What are you using it with?
I also have the CTR2 MIDI.
Yeah.
So our club has a Flex that's online, and it's tied into the remote ham radio network. And according to Lynn at Lynovation, these work with RHR. So I really want to try using one of these with our Flex and see, because you remember I'm going on a cruise in October, and I'm going to be spending some lovely quiet time with our radio, and having the knob makes it so much easier than having to do everything with a mouse on the laptop. So I want to see how this works. These dials are sexy because they've got an OLED screen in the middle that's programmable and changes as you rotate.
Configurable, not to scare people away.
Hmm?
Configurable.
Configurable. Yes.
Yeah.
So as you change it, the firmware on it does different stuff. You can menu options to control a flex, which is going to make things a lot easier. So I'm looking forward to that.
And they're not expensive.
No, they're not. I think
I
the
told
one
them he
with
needed to charge more.
I think the one with the dial was like $60 or something.
Under 100, yeah, well under 100.
Like 70, and then the MIDI, which just has a knob and a couple of switches and some LEDs on it, was like $40.
Yeah, and let me hijack this for a minute. So I'm 100% with the knob. You know what everybody says. I don't want to do HF radio on my screen. So what if you have just a VFO knob, which is the most tactile feel thing, right? If you go buy an HF radio, first thing you spin is the knob, and it's got to feel right, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So the encoders are expensive, and Lynn's found some really nice encoders. We found some really nice encoders for the flex control knob, which is arguably close to double the price, but it works the same way. And if you tell anybody that builds HF radios, the whole VFO knob is such a hard thing to do. You just can't go buy, one of these optical encoders and put a knob on it and have it feel right. No, it's got to have a little mass, but not a lot of mass, and it's got to feel anyway. And he's done a great job. It's my short story.
Well, and he said it's about $65 for the.
Oh, hang
fancy
on.
one?
I'm looking up here right now. So
I'm surprised you don't have one, George. Yeah.
I am too.
Okay, so the dial. I have to be careful because if I pull too hard, I'm going to unplug it and it turns off. The dial, if you get it with everything, the enclosure and the dial, which is from I think M2 is the company that makes the dial, is a thing. It's got a microcontroller in it, and it can be configured for a lot of people use them for thermostats and projects. He just happened to make it work with this. If you get it with the whole thing with the enclosure and the dial and everything, it's like $95. This little MIDI is $50.
And the MIDI is all you need.
And
you can do push to talk on that too if you want, for a push to talk button.
And now I ordered there's two different versions of this. If you get it with, because there's a limited number of IO ports on the back of because the thing really is the dial. That's the microcontroller. It all plugs into that circuit board. So right now there's only 2 extra ports. So if you get a knob, you can get it with a knob and a jack for a key or a paddle, or you can get it without that. And you get it with 2 different knobs. Now, because I'm insisting on taking myself back into CW, I got mine with the 1 knob and the paddle input. So it's supposed to work with that, with maybe do CW through RHR. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, there's a CW. You can use one as a CW port.
Yeah,
I placed a link to Lynovations website in the show notes.
Cool. And Lynn is very good with support. I mean, he's constantly developing the firmware. Now he's got one that is the CTR2 Flex, which is one of these dial things, which is designed to plug directly into a Flex.
That one's new, then.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's similar to the Flex knob, I think, but he's really working on I'm on his mailing list, so he's constantly developing the firmware for it. So it's good to see. He's retired. It's a hobby for him. So
that's excellent.
Yeah.
So that's basically really cool.
When you're operating remote, like on the boat, you want to take as little stuff with you as you can. So if you take your laptop and your radio knob, that's like 90% of what you really need. So in that case, what do you do with your paddle? Do you plug the paddle into the knob box or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'm getting one of those. I'm getting one of the little travel paddles, one of those little anodized machined aluminum Chinese ones. So yeah, I mean, it all plugs into that.
All right, very good. Well, otherwise, not much going on.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Vince, Vince, look what I got, Vince.
Yeah, Vince is an enabler. I looked in his POTA bag, and it's like I need everything in here. So we'll get to that in the second half of the show.
Yep.
But now, Mike, what's on the bench?
Let's see. What did I write down? I got to find the right tab. Well, I'm actually at the cottage. I don't have to fly anywhere for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to rip out the entire control system and redo it for the remote, which will be replacing it all with the station controller. And I'll tell you, George, over the last 2 weeks, I've been sitting and going, but it's not broken. What's there?
Oh, the current system?
The current system works really
Well, I could
well.
fix that.
And
Well, the hot suggestion, Mike, is when you rip all the old stuff out and put the new station controller in there, don't get rid of the old stuff, because at some point you may go, man, I wish I had the old thing, and stick it back in there.
oh no, it's okay. I'll probably just sell it all for bits for the next guy. Now, if you weren't watching George while on live, he just about lost his tea out his nose when I said that. So yeah, that does mean I need to be here for a couple of days. That means I empty the cabinet of everything and I dewire it. And I throw all the wires on the floor and then I start putting stuff back. And hopefully, some cables I'll reuse, some I'll just redo.
And
And
some of the
I'll
otters
put
will take away.
the otters have been good. I haven't had any otters for now that you said it. And I think because I pressure wash the entire boathouse floor. And this happened before, and they disappear for a while. And of course, it gets rid of any of the odor they left behind. And of course, I keep seeing videos all over Facebook with, "Oh, look how cute the otter is," and they run up and they play, and yeah, they're cute, all right. Um,
It's like I learned, I'm not a country boy, but we have deer.
Nah.
And when the deer showed up when we first moved here,
oh, it's so cute.
it was like, oh, look, Bambi's on the property. Isn't this awesome? My wife, who, when she was a kid, grew up at Lake Tahoe, and her dad was a forest ranger, and she said, the deer are not cute. They are a pest. I'm like, how could you say that? Well, a year later, after they ate all of our grapes and
Yep.
most of the plants we planted,
Yep.
freaking deer.
Just a
So
rodent.
I understand the turn towards not appreciating the otters.
Don't get me
And
started about black bears too, because they not only do they eat everything, but they destroy everything while they're eating it.
apparently, you need a
Oh, great.
trampoline.
They're not gentle with our blueberries when
Yeah.
the deers will the deer will just pick them off, but the bears they'll break them as they're doing them.
They'll break the
So,
plants.
so I'm sorry, point of order here. We were talking about otters, and then we moved to deer, so that's a rat hole. And do I count
No, that's a
bear
deer
as
hole.
another rat hole?
Well,
So are
I've
we at
seen the
rat
deer
hole
on
3?
George's
I think
property. So.
we're at 3 now, I think. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, so moving on, and so we'll get started on that maybe tomorrow. It's a long weekend here, so and then Saturday is Mad Microwave Activity Day for us. So I've been yelled at by all the microwave guys for not being on enough. So it's all in the car, and I'm a rover on 10 gig, and I've got a nice peak I go to for Ontario. But it's still not uncommon to get 800 kilometers on a QSO at 10 gig at 3 watts. It's just mind-boggling. So
Wow.
that's always fun, and we all tend to communicate on Slack and stuff. The other day, I worked a guy on sideband. I know I worked Peter. They're all friends of mine. And then 2 guys called me back simultaneously. I had a pile up on 10 gig at the beginning, which I think I posted that video somewhere online. I'm starting to record them all now because they're fun to record, and I'm pretty quick at editing, and hopefully we get another couple people joining and playing around with it. But it's another
You
part
use
of
the
the hobby.
705, don't you?
I use a 705 for the IF, the
Okay.
2 meg. That's all I use that 705 for. And then I feed a Down East microwave 3-watt transverter. And then I use a regular old, Vince Bell, what was Bell's satellite service called? ExpressView satellite dish. And I think the hard part is trying to get the feed horn. And they're around. I got on the last buying thing years ago. W1GHZ would machine these horns, these feed horns, and they were gorgeous. If people who can machine stuff like this are just artists, you know. Anyway, so that's that. Um, I'll do a flex radio plug. We've been working a lot with the ARRL, with a station there. Did a whole presentation there. Steve, N5AC went there and visited them a few weeks ago, and that was in one of their newsletters. And then here in Canada, at Radio Amateurs of Canada, in the capital of Canada, which would be Ottawa, um, not Toronto, as everybody else in Canada thinks. That's an inside joke. Anyway, they're putting in we're building a flex station in there as well. So that'll get up there this week or next week, and I'll probably drive over. It's a 3 or 4 hour drive and go help educate them and get it set up. So that's pretty cool. And they got a nice spot there. I don't know, Vince, if you've seen where they've moved, but for my Canadian friends, love or hate them, just like ARRL, please support them. You know, it doesn't look like they do anything, but they do lots for us and are just like everybody else. So that's cool. And um, George, do you want me to talk about Friedrichshafen?
Yeah, please do. I like I said at the top of the show, I'd love to go. So tell us about your experience there.
So it's easy to get to. You fly. There's 8 or 9 different ways to get there. We generally fly into Zurich, and then you can take a train like right there in a couple hours. And the train system, I like the German plane system, so apparently the Germans are getting fed up with the German train system. But
Yeah.
you know, we get there, or you can take a boat across Lake Constant and do a ferry thing, and it's just a gorgeous part of the world. It's held I think it used to be a hangar for a dirigible,
Oh,
dirigible,
wow.
and it's right beside an aerodrome or an airport, and you know, we're the hotel we stay at's with walking distance now. We try to do that because it's just convenient. But you know, downtown Friedrichshafen has amazing food, and I guess with that is amazing beer, and
Mm.
for you beer drinkers. And the stuff is just so cool. You know, I've been to probably all the major ham fests in North America now. And now I can go, hey, I'm going here. I know what junk I'm going to see at Huntsville. If I'm going to Pacificon, it's a different brand of junk that is all recycled. Go to Germany, and it's a whole different brand of really cool, different stuff. A lot of weak, not a lot, well, I guess maybe a lot of weak signal stuff. So if you're thinking of getting into the 2 meter or even microwave stuff there. A lot of vendors like Mark and George, and they build really specialized stuff, and they really know their stuff.
So some of the converter outfits like Kuhne is German,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yep. I don't think they were there. I didn't.
And there's another one I can't remember.
Kuhn, you're thinking of Kuhn.
Yeah, exactly. And who's the big retailer in Germany?
Well,
Wemo.
it's Wemo.
Wemo,
Is one
okay.
of them, but some vendors go. It's quite a challenge because of taxes in EU. So Wemo's chosen not to go for whatever reason. But some other Andy's going to be upset with that. I can't remember the names, but there's a couple other vendors over there. A couple of antenna guys, HF antenna guys. So whole new antenna designs as well. Right by our booth. Unfortunately, I don't remember the names, but VHF, HF antenna designs, Moxon antenna designs. Just it's just nice because I guess it's different. And there's no outside tailgate. The inside flea market you could blow through in a couple of hours. But it's more like Orlando Hamcation size. But again, all good stuff. And stuff is just really well laid out. It's well labeled. If somebody's selling something like a preamp, he's got the performance specs on it, right down to the noise figure, which is, you can buy
Cool.
20 dB preamps, but if the noise figure's not any good, it's a crappy preamp. So, yeah. And I think the big thing that in North America, some of us would have concerns about is language. I speak very little, if no German, and I have no issue. And
It's funny. Like in my professional life in the past, all the engineers that I worked with in Europe, in Germany in particular, spoke fantastic English. So,
yeah,
I don't know about the hams,
Yeah.
but at least at a professional side, they spoke as good or better English than we did.
Yeah.
now the hardest part was ordering dinner, but person with cell phone with data plan takes
Uh,
picture of menu and dumps it into Chat GPT.
There you go.
Google
And you
Translate
get
on your
it.
phone works great
Oh
too, by
no,
the way.
Chat
Yep.
GPT is phenomenal. You get
Oh,
this
really?
beautifully formatted, and so that was going to take me into my next item.
What's that?
So Chat GPT released agent mode.
Hmm.
Be glad most of you are retired. I had to do,
Because
here's an example. I have a ham example, but the other day I had to, we're looking for something commercially, and I was shopping among four different vendors for this thing. And I got it, and all their web pages are different, and what are their better features? What's their cost? Blah, 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 blah. And I went, ChatGPT agent mode. I said, please review these four sites. Build me a cross-reference table on what they present, their costs, some reviews, the whole nine yard, and you launch it in ChatGPT agent mode. And then you watch this little screen with data fly by, like right out of a movie. And 45 minutes later, I have a very useful report that I have to go validate a few things on, but at least it's got 80% of the stuff is right. And
hmm,
arguably, I have more power than a Cray at my fingertips doing this.
wow.
And
So
it's scary.
yeah, so really your job turns into how do I form the query and how do I validate the results,
Right.
not the legwork of getting the detail.
So that got me thinking today. My buddy needs to teach his son's in the Canadian Armed Forces in the communications group, and they actually have an HF contest. So, so they've conscripted my buddy, the ham operator, going, Dad, I need some help because we need to go compete in this Armed Forces HF contest. And so he reaches out to me and we talk because, yeah, I got to do an all day presentation. I said, oh, well, Chat GPT, write me an all day, a presentation to teach people who don't understand HF communications how HF communications work. And it's one thing to teach it, but it's the 10,000 hour thing. What's going on with the ionosphere today? Oh, solar flux 161. And yeah, any one of us can know what would sort of maybe might work,
Hmm.
and type of thing. And so it pukes out 17 or 18 slides, and then or drafts for those slides, and I send it over, and he goes, yeah, this is great. It gave him a wonderful outline. So then I went back just an hour ago and I said, I went over to the Penticton site for solar flux, and I got the Carrington rotation number, the flux density adjusted, blah blah blah, all the raw numbers. Plugged it in Chat GPT, and I said, okay, given the above, what's the best HF operating for today?
Hmm.
So I got this beautiful forecast, and I'm reading through it and going, yeah, let's see. So it says, so today the flux is 149, 150. And it reads through with all the band conditions. 20 will be open most of the day into the evening, providing worldwide contacts. 30 is the least affected by solar activity, will be open 24 hours a day. We know that to be correct. Um, 15 and 17 will open by mid-morning, last to early evening. 12 and 10 will be sporadically open, which it was. And, it used to be we'd have to rely on Frank and a bunch of guys for their forecasts. This was good. Anyway, it says, would you
So,
like a color-coded HF chart based on today's reading?
and you said no, just have the QSL cards mailed automatically.
Yeah. Can you access my radio and make all the contacts, please? Yeah,
Well, that
it's
was
called
implicit in the
FT8.
middle of that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Let me know how I did.
Anyway, my whole point being is, as amateurs, we're supposed to be inquisitive. We're supposed to try new things. We're supposed to blow things up. Please don't forget to use it as a tool to answer some of your questions if you're trying to figure out something.
Well, that's interesting. I think the whole Chat GPT and generative AI stuff, it's in some ways it's really amazingly cool, and in some ways it's really scary. I'm not
Oh,
sure
it's 100%
kind of
scary.
where I come down on this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
The
I've
book.
used it to generate code fragments for things that I probably did, years ago and forgot, and I could go look it up, but it's just quicker and easier to ask it. But I've also seen situations where, there's like a school situation and the assignment is, go have Chat GPT generate your book report or whatever. And it's like, you're kind of missing the point here. But anyway, yeah, it could get very scary. Anyway, so very good, Mike. Anything else before what you got there? Is this the
So
chart
that's
it
the
created?
coded chart it
Oh,
did.
geez.
And if you're watching this live, and regarding that, if you really want to go read an interesting book, it's a little old now, but oh crap, now the name jumped out of my head by Solomon. It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, if I get it, I'll throw it in the show notes. But yes, the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
And
No going back.
the coming wave by
Hmm.
Solomon. Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway, that's all I got.
that's it. Well, that's plenty. That's certainly good enough for today. So, Thomas, how about you? What's on the bench? Is there a bench, by the way? Let me
Well,
bring
mine.
up that sore topic. Is there a Murphy
Wait a
bench
minute.
yet?
That happened, right? The week
Oh,
he joined, it was all about the fold down bench, wasn't it? The Murphy
it,
bench.
it's
Like the first show ever.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
That's okay. My UHF amplifier was on the same list. It died.
Guys, go easy on him, okay? Give him a chance to answer.
yeah. So I haven't been working on the Murphy bench. The Murphy bench will happen. I promise you that. But I've just had this is like probably one of the busiest times of my whole life right now. It has just been full bore. Everything. We're actually preparing. My daughters are both going to head off. They're going to be freshmen in college at university uh, here in just like a couple of weeks, which is going to be really weird because we're going to be empty nesters all of a sudden here at the house. And well, except for Hazel, the dog will still be here, but so it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. Good in a lot of ways, but in other ways, just kind of missing my daughters being around and joking around with them and stuff and getting our um, Star Trek nights in and all that stuff. Um, but I had been in Canada. In fact, last time I was on the show, I was in Quebec, and we ended up leaving a little bit early, but due to some health issues with my father-in-law. But while we were there, like we actually kind of went out on a really nice. We kind of went out on a bang. It was a lot of fun. Our last couple of days there, we really wanted to go whale watching, and Quebec is just such an amazing province. It really is, in that there's more topographic and geographic diversity there than you would know. And there's a fjord, the Saguenay Fjord, which empties out into the St. Lawrence estuary, and it is just a gorgeous part of this planet. Like Heather and I, when we go there, we always say like, let's just move here. Of course, we're seeing it in the summer. When you don't walk on the water, the water's actually in liquid form. And but it is absolutely gorgeous, and you can see whales from breaching from the shoreline. It's just really amazing. Well, we had planned to do, like, on a Tuesday, we planned to go whale watching, and we were doing this the day before we were leaving to go back to North Carolina, and we made this a road trip. We were there for a long time. We planned to be there for nearly 5 weeks, and Canada actually got in about 3 weeks. And so I had planned to get some time on some zodiacs and go out into the St. Lawrence estuary, with guides to take us out there and look at the whales and everything. And we've done this before, and it was a lot of fun. But one of my daughters, like the day before, got like some kind of vicious cold of some sort. And Tuesday morning, we woke up and I was like, I still want to go up that way. And so we kind of convinced our daughter, we were like, come on, get jacked up on Tylenol or whatever, and let's go. Not to do the whale watching on the St. Lawrence, because that's actually really cold. When you're out there on the water, it's cold. And so you have to jacket stuff. And we just said, no, we'll just go and we'll like go to the coastline and just kind of look at things. And so we drove up that way, and I did a little research in advance, and I was trying to think. The last time we were there, which was 3 years ago, and we went camping, and we were there for quite a few nights. I thought there were no POTA entities anywhere nearby there that I remember, not any accessible ones. But I thought I'll just check again. And I looked on the map, and by golly, there was a POTA entity right there in Tadoussac, which is the town that we like to go to. Again, on the north shore of the St. Lawrence, just on the other side of the Saguenay River. And I looked it up just to see if there was any like information, links, and stuff like that. And in Canada, I got to say, like in um, especially in Ontario, I noticed this that people actually put pretty good notes in the POTA pages for different sites. They'll tell you like, "Hey, here's a good place to set up" or something like that. So I thought I'd look it up, and turned out it was an all-time new one. No one had activated it,
Oh, wow.
and it really surprised me. So 3 years ago, when I was in Quebec, almost every park I activated was an all-time new one. And this time when I went back, I was really pleased to see that a lot of parks have been activated now and have multiple activations. So I thought, oh, let's do an all-time new one. So I kind of asked the family, I was like, would you guys be up for like going to this site? It looks like it's in a pretty area. It's in a nature reserve. And so they were. And so my sick daughter, I was like, could you go on like a short hike, like a really short one? And she said, I probably could. And so Tadousac's kind of a touristy town, but in kind of like a nostalgic 1950s, 60s way. It's just really, it's very charming, and it's just gorgeous. And so we went out, we went out there, and I tried to find the spot where there was a little parking area I'd read about on the website for this particular site. And there was like a spaces for like maybe 4 cars. And we pulled in there, and there's a nice little path that you follow to go down to a lookout point. Is what I thought it was. And as we were walking it, it started to get kind of marshy and messy and stuff. And I was looking at my daughter, and she was giving me these eyes like, "You told me this would be like a walk in a park here, like very easy," and it was kind of more challenging. But we got to the end of this, like, probably like 0.7 kilometer, walk. It was not that far, but it was a little bit of a tricky walk, and it opened up to the St. Lawrence, and it was just stunning. And you were like on a little rocky outcropping, and you could see off in the distance, and it was really pretty. And there were kind of two paths you could take. If you took the path to the right, it just took you on some rocks where you could set up and just kind of watch for whales and things like that, and look at the boats and people around. The other side took you down to like a sandy coastline, and we walked down there, and there was like almost nobody there at all. And I thought, oh wow, I've got to use my KH1 here. And we've had such crappy propagation when we were up there. But the St. Lawrence at that point is very much just saltwater. It may not be quite as strong as like it would be like way out in the ocean, but it's pretty much saltwater at that point. Like it's very saline. And so I set up my KH1. It was stunning weather, and I just sat there and played radio. Every signal that came back to me was massively loud. It worked so well. I dipped my counterpoise of the KH1, which is a little handheld pedestrian portable radio, and I dipped the end of the counterpoise in the water, probably just for the fun of it. I don't think it really makes much of a difference when you're standing there, but it was an outstanding activation. It was a lot of fun, and kind of a nice way to cap off the trip, which was really good. While I was in Quebec, though, I did get really adept at answering the question in French. What are you doing? When I'm doing like a POTA activation. So I was asked that enough times that I was pretty fluid at explaining to people in French what I was doing, and that was nice because the first time I went there, I thought, how do I even explain this? And so that worked out pretty well. Another thing I noticed while I was there is, I have a Canadian call sign. It's Victor Yankee 2 Sierra Whiskey, and I realized that when I'm hunting other parks, I'm convinced that VY2 is just something they just don't know what to do with that. when you're
You,
sending
you
it.
mean Canadian hams or U.S.
Nope,
hams?
mostly US hams. I think they just don't know what to do.
They
And I did
don't.
have one, I had one Canadian ham I was talking to that I just said my call sign was VI2, and they were like, "Where is that?" Well, it's Prince Edward Island, and it's a, it's the smallest province, and it has, that call sign. The prefix is quite different than the rest of the most of the prefixes you see from Canada. But I honestly think that a lot of times when you're calling people, they just go for easier call signs in the pileup. I may be wrong, but I did kind of feel that way when I was sending it. I was like, "Come on,
I would think it'd
I
be the
know,
opposite. It'd be like, oh, that's exotic. Maybe that's Bolivia. I mean, most hams have no clue what that prefix is because they don't hear
Or
it.
they just know it's you and they
yeah,
just
that's
don't want to talk to you.
That's if you have a six in the
thank you
middle to
for
call.
thank you for that, Paul.
You're welcome.
I feel adequately represented.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's just it's I don't know. It was kind of fun, but I had a really really fun time and some really wonderful activations there. I'm still going through a lot of videos of them and everything. I came back here. We've been just super super busy since then, but I have fit in like three activations. I've done just a couple on my own, and then I did one with Vlado this past weekend after a little ham fest that we went to, a little regional ham fest. It was a lot of fun. It's the first ham fest I've been to in a long time that Vlado and I actually didn't get tables together to like get rid of our junk. We just neither one of us had the energy for it this time. We were just like, let's just be, spectators. And so literally didn't buy a thing there when I went there, but there was a lot of cool stuff there if I was in the market. But the thing I'm finding is for some reason, it's taking me longer, muscle memory wise, to not send Victor Yankee 2 Sierra Whiskey when
Mm.
I'm doing Morse code. Last time, I think probably I screwed up a couple times in maybe the first two activations. This time, like just a day ago, yesterday, when I was sending CQ POTA, it's something about the DE. I'll send it like CQ POTA DE, and then instead of sending K4 SWL, I start with a V, and I catch myself at the V, and then I'm like dit, like sorry, messed up, and then I send it again. But for some reason, my muscle memory is just like really hard coded for that V now. I don't know how long it's going to take. I need to like sit here and practice at home or something.
Well, so you probably don't get a chance to
Is
use
my
your Canadian
door?
call. What's that?
Is my audio working still?
Well,
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
It's probably
it's
rough.
fine now. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
a pause there.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
good.
the struggle is real to switch
Yeah.
call signs.
I believe it.
Yeah, but that's been really about it. I haven't had a chance to mess with anything. There are a few I'm helping others right now with projects, and they're really fun. So that part's really fun, but I don't have their permission to talk about it. Um, so just know that I'm having a little bit of fun even though I'm so busy. And I did just finish. I will tell you this one story because I think I'm kind of a deadbeat dad now. I dropped off my daughter at orientation at NC State University yesterday morning, pretty early, and as I was dropping her off, I was there with her, and she had her luggage. She stayed the night in the dorm rooms, and the student that greeted us said, "You two can go in there and register, and just leave your luggage here." And I said, "Well, I can hold her luggage here." And she's like, "No, you go and register too." I was like, me register? I register for this?" And she said, "Yeah, for the family orientation." And I was like, "I've already got plans." And she said, I said, "Is it a required thing? Is it required?" And
No,
she
no.
said,
You asked, is
"It's
ham
not
radio involved in the family
required."
orientation?
I know. I said, she said, "It's not required," as in like if you're a decent parent, you're going
Well,
to do
yeah,
this,
right.
right?
But if you're a good parent,
And I was like, I got an activation scheduled this morning, and so anyway, my daughter and I actually worked it out really nicely. It turned out that the things they were discussing that morning had nothing to do with ham radio. I mean, had nothing to do with anything that I didn't already watch a video about or something about NC State. And so I met up with her in the afternoon and we did a bunch of stuff and it was really good. But it's kind of fun going back and seeing colleges. It's been a long time since I went to university and it's kind of fun to see it now, how things have changed. Their food is so much better than it used to
Well,
be.
and now they have electricity and indoor plumbing. I mean, it's things have changed a lot.
That's right. That's right. Actually, at mine, and no joke about this, I went to a university here in the mountains in North Carolina. Air conditioning was not a thing in the dorms at all, period. Like just not in North Carolina, because it was in the mountains and it wasn't a big deal. Like now, like everything is air conditioned. The climate's going to change so much here. It's so much warmer than it used to be. And I'm like, oh man, you're living in a lap of luxury having air conditioning.
Mm.
But
Yeah, when I was a kid, we had to walk uphill both ways.
yes, we did. But
Cold
that's all that's
poison.
on my that's all that's on my workbench. Who's next? Have you
Well,
done
and
yours? Oh, you haven't done yours, George.
no, not yet. But in the time allotted, we still have to do Vince.
We have to do Vince.
We have to
Vince,
do Vince.
even
Well,
though you're our guest of honor here, you do get to talk about what's on your workbench.
I want to start out with some shout outs to some very devoted listeners of the podcast. Matt, N3AR, Carlos, K9 Oscar Lima, Wade, VA3NCA, and John, Echo India 9 Hotel Whiskey, who dropped us the most wonderful note. And I'm I safe to say we are all, John, very touched by your note. So thank you very much. And speaking of shout outs, good after evening noon is my friend Simon's expression that I've capitalized upon. And Simon, Golf 7, Hotel Charlie Delta, or VA3SII, depending on which side of the pond he's on, you will find in the show notes a video from the originator of Good After Evening Noon, and that is Simon. That's not me. I'm absolutely blatantly ripping it off. I probably owe him royalties by now. And
He told me that at Hamvention.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did.
I know he did. And so Simon has published a video with the origins of Good After Evening Noon. So I've popped that in the show notes. So that's kind of a fun little video. So
Vince, if I could, I would like to second the shout out to K9OL.
Absolutely.
Carlos he's local to me. And on his way from where he lives to the jump zone, he drives past my area all the time. And I talk to him on our repeater from time to time. I heard him this past weekend, 2 days ago, jumping, but not enough to work him. But
yeah,
Carlos is cool. I've done POTA.
When did he change his
Nice,
call?
really nice guy.
About a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Oh, where have I been? So, okay,
I
because
don't
when you
know.
said Carlos, I thought, is it the same one? But
Yes.
apparently, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So his YouTube channel is Life at Terminal Velocity. You can watch
Life
him
at
jumping out of
Terminal
airplanes
Velocity.
with
Yep.
radios. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. Carlos
really
Carlos
nice
is a pretty
guy.
cool cat, and he's a good builder too. So
And he's jumped with an IC 7300. I would like to point that out, just in case you're wondering.
And several pack tennas, I would also
Yes.
add.
several pack tennis, a 705, an ID52, an FT5. He's flown a lot of radios. So
Correct. We're waiting on the Aurora. That's
yeah,
what we're waiting on.
And the generator.
Yeah.
and the generator.
What was that? I think that was the generator.
You throw that out first with its own little parachute.
He
Yeah,
torture
pretty much.
tested an ID52.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that because of
Okay.
FAA regulations, and so just in the mail recently, I want to give a different shout out to the folks from Spooltenna. So the Spooltenna folks, you've heard about that product, and they have a great spool, and it's an end-fed wire antenna, and they now have the SpareSpool as an offering, and I'm holding it up to the camera. They have sent me one, and it is wonderfully built. It is incredibly durable, and I am looking forward to getting my feed line wound up on it and trying it out versus my own finger spool that you heard me talk about several shows ago that I designed and 3D printed. So look forward to more news from that.
So
Uh,
I want to interject something here real quick. I agree with you 100%. And the really cool thing is, Robert, KO4HUI, I think is his call sign. that came up with this idea to just he wanted to make a spool-based antenna, and he did, and his wife got in on it, and they just like make this business. They put it together, made it work, and he contacted me really early on. He is a super super nice guy, and just last night I had dinner with him actually in Raleigh. I was in Raleigh, and I contacted him. I was like, "Hey, you want to get together?" And he just is just a really cool fellow, really nice, and he's a big time listener of the show. He loves the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, and so yeah, big shout out to Rob. He's a fantastic fellow. He and his wife are doing a good job. They make really good product, and it's just all this kind of mom and pop. They do it out of kind of passion for radio, and this is the sort of thing I love about our amateur radio world is we have all these really cool little mom and pop niche stores and things.
It's
He
amazing.
was,
We have a whole lot of really cool people that are just part of
Hmm.
ham radio.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
to say one thing you reminded me of. I think at least four people walked up to me in Germany and said, "Love the show."
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
that's cool.
And
Nice.
unfortunately, I didn't write down their names, so I can't recognize them. But if you came up to me, thank you for taking the time to say hi.
Yeah.
And
You know,
eventually, like a what do we used to do that? Like net traffic, it got to the right people.
yeah.
Network traffic.
That's one of the things I mentioned in the email we did that, we with Newsline. We all sit in our little basement studios producing it. We send it out to the internet. We have no idea. But
Hmm.
That's
when
right.
you go out to Hamfest and stuff and people actually come up to you and say, "Hey, I listen every week," it's like, oh, then what we're doing means something.
Okay, that's
So
one.
that's one. Yeah.
I had that conversation with because I was thinking of getting into radio in my teens, and I lived in North Bay, Ontario, and I used to be able to walk into the studio and sit with the on-air personality, and they to a person said, "Yeah, man, I have no idea if anybody's even listening to me."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's always the case that people who are going to complain, you'll hear from, and people who are happy, often you don't. And this is why I really appreciate it when people send notes, like Vince, when you mentioned the several folks
Yeah.
and Mike, because everything's working fine. I mean, when the plumbing's working, you don't write your plumber and say, "Hey, thanks, it's still working," right? Everything, like, I expect the podcast to show up, and I expect it not to be terrible. So when that's the case, then you're like, "Yeah, well, of course." But it's nice when people go out of their way to actually write and tell us what they like or don't like, frankly, even. But we really appreciate that feedback.
Yeah. We sure do. We sure do. So thank you. Um, so I regaled you last time with my stories of when we were doing our field day wrap-up episode, my stories of breaking carbon fiber masts and having to repair them.
Hmm.
Um, and you saw my wound then, so here we are a month later, and you can't even tell there's a wound there anymore, so that's good. And the since that time, our dear friend of the podcast, Mike K8MRD from Ham Radio Tube on YouTube, has released a video, and I have released a video as a direct result of Mike's. And Mike says if you own a POTA 20 or a POTA 33 Explorer carbon fiber mast from GigaParts, one of the mandates I had, he says, in their development and sale of the product was spare parts must be made available. And sure enough, now you can go to the GigaParts website and you can order individual sections for these carbon fiber masts. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is unheard of. Normally, if you break a section on a CF mast, you're either repairing it, as I've done with my cheap ass Go Tier off of Amazon, or you're throwing it out, or you're using it much shorter than it is until the POTA Explorer series has come out. So in the show notes, I've linked my video, which shows you the process of swapping out a section in a CF mast and how to do that. And in the description of that video, you'll find a link to take you to GigaParts website. You can use Mike's discount code and get 5% off. And you can order your individual sections as I have done for my own. So now, while I was there, I will admit, um,
What did you buy? What did you buy?
Another mast. And so I bought a second POTA 20 mast because I really, really like it. And
Well,
this
there's
is
a
the
bigger
same one
one
I had
too.
out at field day. There's the 33. I'm perfectly happy with a 20-foot mast. And I like that
Yeah.
I can fit it in my luggage. So now I have two of them. And when I ordered a set of spares, I ordered two sets of spares. Because if it happened to me once, I'm probably going to be a dumbass and do it again at some point.
Two is
So,
one is none.
well, yeah, pretty much, right? And because those of us in Canada, we have to pay for brokerage fees to bring items in across the border by courier, for the privilege of the courier to pay taxes on our behalf and then ask us to grab our ankles while they recollect from us plus a service charge. I'm going to make the best of a shipment coming in from the States and just pay that once. So that happened. Hey, lastly, I have pasted. I had kind of a fun thing happen to me at an activation a few weeks ago, and I was working a fellow that was 176 kilometers away from me on 20 meters. He was loud, like 20 over loud, coming to me on phone. And I'm like,
Wow.
geez, the guy's got to be a few kilometers away. There's got to be ground wave. Oh, no, he was at home. And so it got me looking into the difference between ground wave and sky wave. And I thought to myself, oh, he's that close. It's got to be ground wave. It isn't. And so there's a document that's published by the ITU, and I've put a link to this in the show notes. And it is all about is it the ITU handbook about is it short skip or ground wave, and the differences and how to measure it and how to evaluate it and the conditions upon which you should expect it. The long story short is if you've got a field strength meter and you can measure the signal coming into you, it's probably ground wave. And if you, from a handheld field strength meter perspective, and a much more, which is a reasonably insensitive device. But if not, if you're relying on your radio to do the amplification of it and bringing in microvolts and bringing it up to audio level where you can hear it, it's probably short skip. So that was a tremendous learning for me because I had always thought of short skip ground wave as being, anything within a couple hundred kilometers. That's not the case. So you can read this document for yourself. Heads up, it's a PDF that I've linked to, but it's from the ITU's website, so it's all legit. And I wish there was an executive summary on it. There isn't. It's about 24 pages long, and it goes into immense detail. So it's really good for those of you who want to crawl through some statistics and look at some charts. It's a really interesting document. So that's what I've put into the show notes, and that's what I've been working on. Not much for the last few weeks. George, what's going on, man? What's on your bench?
Holy moly. I do have one comment on your ground wave thing.
Yeah.
I so very rarely have ever worked anybody ground wave. It's possible, but I don't typically find it. And I think unless you're in the near field of the antenna, I don't think the field strength meter is going to measure anything, even if it's ground wave. So, I mean, if you're 10 miles away on 20 meters and there's actually ground wave, let's just say there is, you're not going to measure that on a field strength meter. I mean, there's no chance.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be like mighty close to make that work. So
yeah.
What's on the bench? I mentioned in a previous episode 2 shows ago that our HOA bought a Retevis RT97L, I think, which is a 20-watt UHF commercial repeater that we have here on the HOA property. And after about 2 weeks of operation, it decided to stop working. And the symptom is you key up on the input and the thing shuts off and then reboots itself, and you key up on the input and it shuts off and it just doesn't work. So I talked to the Retevis folks and they said, I think it's the power control board. If you can change the circuit board, we'll just send you a replacement board. I said, yeah, that's fine. I got screwdrivers and Allen wrenches. I could make that work. So they sent it to me, and it just showed up this last week. So it took about a week and a half to get here. So I get the board, I open up the repeater, and I pull out the old board, and I put in the new board, and I screw it back together again, and I put it on the service monitor, and it works fine. So everything's good, everything's a-okay. There's no, and then this bad thing happened, part of the story. It just worked. So it's going back into service. It's already reinstalled actually, and hopefully it'll last a long time. So I will say that that even though they had to ship the board, I think they had to ship it from China, but it only took like a week and a half to get here, which is not that bad. Now, if this is a critical system, then I should have had a backup, frankly, which I had a backup. But week and a half to get the board's not too bad, and they didn't give me any kind of like third degree about getting the replacement board. They're like, "Yep, that's the problem. We'll just send it to you." And I'd rather they send me the board than to say what I expected, which is, well, ship it back and we'll get to it sooner or later, and then we'll fix it. I'd rather, no, if you think it's this board, just send it to me and I'll change it. So that worked out fine. So very good.
Let me say one thing. This is an interesting comment to me, at least. You're actually talking about an HOA that bought radio stuff.
Yes.
As opposed to preventing you from having radio stuff. They're actually actively
yes.
buying the stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Right?
In the HOA bylaws, baked into the agreement when you buy the property, it says that you cannot put up a tower. Actually, what it says is you can't put up a tower without the approval of the HOA. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever tried. I haven't even bothered to try to put up my own tower, but we put up the repeater on about a 20-foot pole in HOA property space.
I don't know. In your place, you could just keep the gate locked until they agree it's okay. Because don't you control the gate technology?
Yeah, we don't talk about that publicly. So we put a station controller in the box. So where the main gate is, there's a utility box, and in the utility box, I put a station controller, and it's monitoring the gate and the power system and the backup battery that I installed out there for the gate system. So I can monitor from a half a mile away over a 900 megahertz data link. I can monitor or control the gate from home. And the repeater.
You're literally the gatekeeper.
A gatekeeper.
I'm literally the gatekeeper who and not on duty most of the time.
Does that make him a troll?
Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, that's been fun. So we got some other big plans for the HOA thing. Eventually we're gonna get a bigger equipment rack and pour a pad and do all kinds of fun stuff. And it's been interesting because we rolled out the radio system. So here we have about 95 houses, and we announced it to everybody that we have a radio system and a text, way to text people and to send emails and all that. And we have about 20 people who've bought radios and who've been through the training about, here's the volume knob, here's the channel knob, any questions? And by and large, the reaction was like super positive because people were happy that there is a way that when there's no power, no internet, no, snow and ice on the driveway, that it'd be nice if you can get a hold of somebody. And so the response has been good. I think we have a ways to go. But this next week, we're going to do another training session. And after the training session's over, we're going to do a net. And of course, to all these like non-radio people, you got to explain like, well, what's a net? So you can't be too much of a ham, and expect them to know or care. You have to remember these are normal people. Yeah. So it has to be kind of a fun thing. So we're going to have a net and we're going to have a question.
Oh, they're muggles.
Who on this
yes,
may have some experience in this area? I don't know.
Yep. We're trying to work on some of this now, doing it through the GMRS method. And our local, a fire department, not our local one here, but the next one over, actually, a friend of the show, David Billstrom, has been doing a lot of work with that and putting up a new GMRS repeater, and it's really good because like all the neighbors around here, after the storm, they're like, we need to have an off-grid way to communicate. That came in so handy during the storm. So I think it's great though that you got your whole, you've got your community so on it. You've got a really good system in place. That's just wonderful.
I think the thing there are a couple of secrets to success, such that we've had success to some degree so far. I think one of the things is that we just did everything. We didn't have a big meeting and get into analysis paralysis. It was like, okay, I'm going to make a recommendation, and here's my thinking and why we should go this route. And everybody's like, sounds good. And so they're just happy somebody did it. So I think that was a positive thing. And the big attraction, frankly, is the secret words off grid, because I think that's the thing that the people really reacted to, is because, of course, they're like, do I need my cell phone for this? Like, nope. Do I need the internet for this? Nope. So when the power's out, will this work? 100%. If you charged it, it'll work. So yeah. So the response is really, really positive. And so hopefully this winter, I don't know, well, hopefully we won't need it, but we'll at least have a few people who know how to use the radio come wintertime. So there's that. The other thing I've been working on is the station controller has done pretty well. We've sold a whole bunch of those units. And the next thing that I'm designing is a control module for high power HF relays. So one of the standard modules I made is a 100-watt 4-position HF 6-meter coax relay. There's also a VHF UHF version, which is an impedance controlled RF relay. And those are all great, but the most frequent question I got at Hamvention and at CPAC is, what about a kilowatt? And I said, well, you can probably put a couple hundred watts through the 100-watt thing just fine, but I wouldn't put a kilowatt through it.
Just 1 kilowatt?
Well, and I was hoping, Mike, that you or Dan would test the limits of this RF switching
we're
fuse.
Good at blowing stuff up.
By all means, start at 100 and keep turning till 11.
Dan's got all the amplifiers in his garage, so he's
I asked him if he would shove some juice through it and see where it gets too hot.
Just plug him again.
But it's probably not going to handle a kilowatt. So I'm going to make the controller so it'll handle a kilowatt antenna switch. So that's on the list. And otherwise, I've been spending time getting ready for POTA, but I'm going to just put a pin in it there, because when we come back, Vince is going to lead us down the path of POTA gear organizing, and I'll talk about what I've been doing on my POTA gear organizing at that point. So with that, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Vince is going to POTA us up. We'll be right back. Well, we have a very special guest to talk about a topic that we're all interested in, which is portable operating. And so our special guest is Vince, VE6LK. Hello, Vince. Welcome to the show.
Hi, George. Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to have you with us. So you and I and the other guys had a chance to operate POTA at Hamvention on Monday after Hamvention.
It was wonderful.
It was a blast. So we really enjoyed it so much. I mean, it probably the highlight of my Hamvention, to be perfectly honest, was hanging out with you guys.
Mine too.
And as usual, I always learn something from you about a piece of equipment or how you organize it or something or another. So the theme of this topic is how you organize for POTA, and what are your unique thoughts about that. And then after we go through that, then we're going to open it up to the rest of the rabble and see if we all just go, yep, what he said, or if anybody else has any ideas to throw on the pile. So with that, why don't you take it from here?
Yeah, real good. Thanks. And so, the methodology I'm presenting here is the same, a distilled version of the talk that I gave at Hamvention this year. I was very honored to be at Hamvention. I think they were scraping the bottom of the barrel personally to have me there. But anyway, and it's not specifically about POTA. It's just about how to think and how to pick items that go into a Go kit. What's the running joke? The running joke is, if you ask 2 hams for an opinion, you get 7 opinions. And so accordingly, I'm not going to ask what you think is in a Go kit. I'm going to tell you that that Go kits come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is Go kits in my world fall into really 2 main groups. Those that fit into a bag of some sort. I'm sorry I said it. a bag of some sort, because we're going to land up with Bag Talk, a subdivision of Ham Radio Workbench if I keep it up. A backpack, a camera, or a laptop bag, or those that fit into a box of some sort, like a 19-inch rack mount case, a musician's gator case, or others, a plastic suitcase like an Apache or a Pelican or a Nanook. And Go kits fall into two subgroups in my world: battery powered and grid powered. So these definitions set a foundation for this discussion, right? So the next thing you have to really think hard about is, what is your purpose? And each of these photos that I'm showing on screen here, there's in the upper left corner a portable repeater set, the upper right corner an ammo can. The lower two photos are photos that I stole from some guy named K4SWL, and the two in the middle are clearly purpose built. One's in a gator case and one's in a handmade wooden case. So you think about your purpose as you're putting a kit together. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a methodology. This isn't a pull your credit card out. And I know you'll find that shocking because you're listening to the Ham Radio Workbench. Keep your credit card aside for a few more minutes, okay? So let me give you some talking points and some thinking points about your purpose. Why do you want a kit? Are you going to use it for camping or POTA? Are you going to use it for event support, like your local cycling tour or foot race? Do you need it for MCOM support? Where are you going to use it? On top of a mountain? Inside? On a picnic table? What frequencies do you want to cover? HF? VHF? UHF? What operating modes are you going to use? CW, voice, digital? What power level? 5 watts, 100 watts? And what's your purpose for the QSOs? Is it casual? Is it a contest where it's really good if the message gets through? Is it MCOM where the message is really damn well got to get through? Got to think about these things. So define your purpose. The next thing to define is your electrical requirements. Think about your source of power. Is it commercial mains? Is it generator? Is it battery? Is there solar involved? What's your operating transmit power level? 5 watts, 100, something in between. How long are you operating for? A few hours? 24? Unlimited? And where is your power? Is it close by or distant? So people look at that last point and they go, where is your power? Go up to the top. If it's commercial mains, but your power is 100 feet away, you need a bigger extension cord. That's really what that's saying. So, and then lastly, define your mechanical requirements. How big do you want it to be? So this can speak to some personal limitations or some space limitations. So, how big is it? Is it a one-hander? Does it need a crew of roadies? Pallets on the air. Is it luggable? How big is it? How much does it weigh? Is it 50 pounds? Is it 3? What form factor do you want it in? Is it a small bag, a backpack, a suitcase, dedicated vehicle, transport trucks on the air? And where are you going to set it up? Do you need a table when you get there? Can it sit on the ground? Do you wear it on your body? All of these things are requirements. So all of these things I'm talking about, oh, by the way, go to my website and you'll find this talk and all of these bullet points in a text form. You don't have to remember any of this. You can please use my checklists. As always, this is a toolkit that I've developed and I'm sharing for everybody to use.
Can I interject here?
Please. Yeah.
On slide 7, I sort of feel like there's a bunch of things that are popping in my head, but I'm sort of sitting on my hands. But this slide, I really want to touch on for a second. What I found was this is the last thing that most people think about. So your slide number 7, in a way, it's the most important slide because this stuff dictates so many of the other possibilities.
Bingo.
Because if you how many times have people, including myself, built something and by the time you're done, you go, that thing is so big or heavy, I'm never going to take it out again. And then you just kind of dismantle it and use the parts.
Yep. Yes.
So the thing that is so much left to the end, and it comes out to be whatever it comes out to be is exactly this: the size, the weight, the form factor. And what I've personally learned, kind of the hard way, is it's the most important thing. And because our tendency is, if there's a possibility of getting a bigger container to put more of your stuff in it, you'll do it until you go to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? Radio gear, it keeps expanding to fill the available space. As
How,
you know,
how
to
many times
paraphrase
have
the
you
old
put
expression.
together how many times have you put together a kit and said, I have an extra flashlight, I have an extra pocket knife, I have an extra roll of duct tape.
No, that's
I
never
should
happened.
put all that stuff in there too.
That has never happened.
Yeah, well, maybe not to you.
No, not at all, right? So let's take a look at what's in some kits and some, wonderful kit photos here that I pulled off the internet. All kits have at least these two items in them. This is bare minimum for a kit. And you're going to tell me stuff's missing, but hang on. Radio and power distribution. There's a bunch of stuff missing, right? Beyond that box or that bag, you're going to need power, antennas, supports, feed lines, manuals for your gear. Please don't forget your manuals if you're doing MCOM or event support. I, as your net control operator, cannot be expected to know the arcane settings of your 1974 VHF UHF crossband radio. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now, some kits have these things in them too. They have more than one radio.
I'm not going to comment on that. I'll take my 741 any day.
Yeah, go ahead. And just as long as you're self-supporting. Some kits have these things too. They've got more than one radio. They've got a microphone, a CW key, a digital tune interface, a computer. Oh, wait a minute. On the last slide, I didn't have a microphone or a CW key. That's because that's not mandatory in a kit, because we haven't defined your mode yet. That's why it wasn't listed on the last slide. That's why it's listed as a possible on this slide. Continuing on, a power meter, an antenna tuner, external speakers, battery charger, solar panel. And there are things you need to make your life and comfort easier. And I could fill 10 slides with this, but here's my summary of must have, don't ever leave it behind. Something to write on and something to write with. Some tape. 3M blue painter's tape for the win. Oh, by the way. A coffee mug, a water bottle, a fuel bar to start a fire or to feed yourself. Two different fuel bars, of course. A first aid kit, some fresh clothing. Do not underestimate the value of dry socks when you're out at a long radio placement. Adequate food, because you don't know that you're going to get fed depending on the situation. Lighting, a poncho. Poncho is good for personal, and it's good to throw over your gear to keep it dry too. And you saw that last time. I had a great big beach umbrella that suddenly was keeping my radios dry during my field day activation. I brought it for a sunshade. So with all that, with all those things, now let me show you how Vince uses his design methodology. So as a project manager, I always start with the end point in mind. That's why I say, let's do all the design requirements first, and then we get product to fit. So here's my design requirements. So my design requirements are, I'm going to use my kit indoors in an emergency operations center doing MCOM support, in net control at a cycle tour, foot race, or a rally sport event, or, I'm going to go camping or do POTA. My power primarily is 120 volts. I carry 12 volts as a backup. My operating frequencies are like all of them, 80 meters to 70 centimeters. And 80 meters is a great emergency frequency too for kind of regional communications, right? That's why I mention 80 meters in there. I'm operating phone first, CW next, and digital last. My power level is 100 watts on sideband and 50 on FM. And for those purposes that I've already said. So now listen, you got to harness, as you're building your requirements, you have to harness a method that I know as the Kepner-Trigo method. Determine what you must have and determine your nice to haves. So in my list, my must haves are multiple concurrent VHF and UHF VFOs. because I've experienced that failure. So I carry spares, hot spares with me, because as you've heard me say a gazillion times, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And I know there's people out there that don't agree with that.
So rewind a second. What do you mean by multiple concurrent VUHF VFOs?
I need to hear concurrently on VHF and UHF.
Okay.
And I need multiple radios
so
for the time that one fails.
Oh, okay. So what I was going to say is, do you mean a single radio that's dual band, dual VFO, or do you mean 2 physical radios?
I mean 2 radios like that.
Okay. And the 2 radios themselves must be dual band, dual VFO.
Correct.
Okay.
Because I have experienced the failure of that radio critically when I needed it.
Got it.
How many times do you have radio failures? I'm going to be on the other side of the fence. I can't remember I've had a radio failure.
I had radio failure during the 2013 Southern Alberta flooding, and I've had radio failure during a high-speed rally sport event. Oh, and I've experienced a repeater failure during high-speed rally sport event.
Yeah, we only have generally one repeater.
Yeah. Well, no, we have a primary and a backup, and then we have simplex.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Out west we do, and out west here we run 2 net control operators on the same frequency at the same time to have that crossover and concurrency. The rest of my must-have items: an externally amplified speaker and a headphone distribution amp, so that I can be listening to the radio and shut out the noise of the room around me. And sometimes the rooms I get in, they got 12 or 15 people. They get very, very loud. But
something like Mark's hardware?
No, I actually use a small Behringer headphone amp that I got at a music store. Okay. Mark's Hardware would do that as well, for sure.
Very well.
And in my kit, my must-have, because I'm a guy with a bad low back, each piece in my kit must be 1 arm carryable and rugged for transport. So, Pelican case for the win, because I've dropped my KX3 in a Pelican case, and I did not break my foot, and I did not break the radio or the case. So here's a quick tour of what's going on in my kit. I want to replicate everything I can do at home. These are old pictures of my kit, by the way. And so in my kit, I can do WinLink data radios. I've got a WinLink data radio in UHF that we use in this part of the world. We've got that UHF Vera and WinLink infrastructure on packet. I have the headphone amp. I've got an HF tuner and a sound card. I've got my VN UHF radio and my FT857, a computer, a battery. I've got some fans, my creature comfort devices. I house these things in Pelican 1500s. Underneath the Pelican 1500s, I put everything on a checker plate, kind of like what Paul did with his kit when we saw it at Hamvention, except my checker plate comes off. It's not neatly hinged. I really like that idea of Paul's. Underneath, I put storage. I carry RF adapters, 12-volt USB cables, external speakers, power supplies, jumper cables, grounding cables for HF. I carry all that stuff underneath. I also carry quarter wave mag mount antennas, the rare earth or neodymium magnet style. And I carry one in every bin so that I'm never without an antenna. And, and they're small and they tuck away nice and easy, right? They're really super slender ones. The other gear I carry with me are, some people would call it a buttload of feed lines. I carry, so buttload is a unit of measure, by the way. Here's your trivia for the day. Buttload is a unit of measure of wine. It also means a whole bunch. And so I carry RG.
Is that a metric butt or an imperial butt?
It's an imperial butt, actually, and it comes back from the days when ships sailed the oceans. So buttload, you can look it up. If I think about it, I'll put a link to it in the show notes, the definition. I carry RG400 feed line. RG400 is mechanically the size of RG8X, but it has loss characteristics approaching that of LMR 400. So it's better loss characteristic than RG8X, but it's the same size. It's Teflon coated. It cleans up easy, et cetera, et cetera. I carry a crap load of antennas with me in my kit. Clearly when you look at this thing, Vince isn't doing soda. No, that's not my goal. My goal is to sit in an emergency operations center or in an air-conditioned place doing net control, right? So my
You
kit is
said
built for that.
you
Hmm?
said it cleans up.
Yeah, it does.
Taking a page out of Bob Heil's book, you
Yes.
cleaned your feed lines when you come back from a
I cl
POTA.
I
Like if
clean
they're dirty and muddy or whatever, do you
I
clean
clean
them?
I
You
clean them
wipe them
before
down?
I clean them before I pack them.
Yeah, okay, well that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And
So
and it was actually Bob Heil that said that, when all his audio world stuff,
Oh yeah,
when they reel stuff up, they're wiping down cables as they're spooling them. Exactly
totally.
for that reason.
Absolutely.
way to go.
Yeah.
I have a purchasing tip, by the way, for
Mm.
that very thing. Home Depot sells a package of microfiber cloths
Oh yes.
that are but like about 18 inches by about 10 inches. So they're pretty good size. And there's like a bundle of 30 for like $10 or
Yeah.
$15. I mean, they're almost disposable.
Yeah.
So when you put your antenna cable in your antenna cable carrying thing, throw in one of those towels so you can do exactly what you guys are talking about, which is like as you spool up the wire, you're kind of cleaning off the cable as you reel it up. And those towels were great for that, and you could reuse them or toss them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Let me highlight a few things on this list. And for those of you who are listening to the audio podcast, I really encourage you, please go to my website and look for this presentation about GoKit, a fresh approach. And you'll see the text version of this. So I carry problem solvers with me. I've mentioned 3M blue painter's tape. It doesn't take paint off walls, and that's why it's there. It's medium tack tape, as the adhesives guys would call it. I carry an assortment of Sharpie markers. Sharpie, if you're listening, I would love a sponsorship. Um, I carry stuff to write on and stuff to write with, writing sticks, paper, pen, pencil, clipboards. I carry dollar store carabiners. I'm going to show you why in a minute. Neodymium magnet cup hooks, and I'll show you why in a minute. I carry tools with me because that's how I roll. Extra feed line, an antenna analyzer, a bunch of whips, because inevitably, somebody at the event I'm going to, their antenna's not working here. I've got one that I know is good. Please return it to me, right? And just
Uh,
get them in production, right?
Vince, on as far as tape goes, um, the blue painter's tape is good. It's also less expensive, but I would think that gaffer's tape
Mm-hmm.
is a good thing to bring too, but gaff tape is not inexpensive. I mean,
Nope,
it holds like duct tape, but doesn't leave the goo.
that's
Coming
right.
from a theater sound, you
Oh,
don't touch cables with duct tape.
duct tape on them.
Oh God,
Exactly.
no.
And
Gaffer's tape it doesn't leave residue,
the
but
black,
Okay.
it's not
it's a little,
inexpensive.
and you go with the black gaffer's tape with the white Sharpie.
Yep.
Yep. And I never tape down a cable. I'm going to show you why. So
Oh,
why?
sure
What am I
do.
taping down? I'm taping down documents so they don't fly away on me. So
Ah,
that so that somebody can't walk off with my map or my frequency list. I tape them down. Listen, there's three stories here on this slide. There's the headphone app on the left. It's a Behringer brand headphone
Oh
app.
yeah,
You
I've
can
seen
find
that.
them at a variety of places. This is, 30 to 40 bucks at your local pro audio department. And I've taken one channel and I've hacked out the output of it to feed into an LM386 module, so it drives about a watt. And I've clearly marked the output. It's a speaker output, not a headphone level output on that channel. This is driven by 12 volts. Most of them are. It's reasonably quiet.
so the module is inside. You put the module
Yep.
inside the Behringer box.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
an absolute terrible hack job putting it in there, but it's wrapped up in
Hey,
and it's electrically isolated, so that's all I care.
if it works, it
I'm
works.
sorry. What's the module do again? I
The
clearly
L
wasn't
the
paying attention.
LM386 amplifier module.
Oh, okay. That's
Right?
what I
So
thought it
to
was.
take a headphone level output and drive a speaker at 2
Yeah.
watts,
Yep.
That's
it's
cool.
enough for a room. And this thing's bolted down to the plate of my Go kit. Hey, so the middle picture, you're wondering, why does Vince have a picture of a dumpster there? Well, So during the 2019 Big White Winter Rally just west of Kelowna, British Columbia, one of my favorite rallies to go to, despite how damn cold it is, the primary repeater failed on us, and we were in the middle of restaging and moving volunteers, and competitors were lining up, and the primary repeater failed. And we knew this because I'm pressing the pickle on the radio and I'm not hearing the Roger beep come back. And so Potty Mouth made a spectacular appearance. And I grabbed, so everybody says, Vince, why do you travel with so much crap? This is why. And I grabbed out from below my feet where I had stored my bins with spare feed line. I grabbed 100 feet of feed line and a whip antenna. And I pointed to the first person I saw in the room and I said, please come with me. I was probably a little less polite about it. Somebody else cracked a window open in the room. We ran the feed line from this mag mount back into the room. So the shovel that you see in the picture cleared off the snow on the top of the dumpster. We dropped this whip on, connected it to the output of my radio. I was training a new net control operator who was just standing there going, Vince, it appears you've got this. You don't need me, right? I went, yeah, that's right. I'm good. And I flipped my radio into reverse mode, cranked the power up to the top, and I pretended to be the repeater. And I made the announcement on the output frequency of our primary repeater that the primary repeater has failed. This is net control. Please switch to backup. I repeated that 3 times, and I instructed my other operator to start taking check-ins on the second frequency. We lost 10 minutes. We were ready for it. We were prepared, and we moved into action very quickly. So
nice.
The dumpster repeater. And then lastly, those neodymium magnet cup hooks, I get them in Canada at a place called Lee Valley Tools, and you can get them mail order from Lee Valley Tools in California. These are the best cup hooks you'll ever find. They stick to anything as long as it's magnetic. And so I use them, and as you can see in the photo, I take those cheap-ass dollar store carabiners, and I use these for cable management. I don't put my cables across the floor and put gaff tape on them. I used to do that in the pro audio world. Today, I find anything magnetic. I run my cables up, across the ceiling, and out the window. And this makes for easy, quick-to-use cable management. You know those drop T-bar ceilings and those goofy 4x2 foot drop tiles you find in offices? All those T-bars hold a magnet really nicely. This is a very easy way to get cables outdoors from your radio operating position to your outside antennas.
Yeah, and on a totally unrelated, well, semi-related, if you cruise a lot, the walls of your cabin are steel. Those things are awesome for hanging stuff in your room. Your cabin. Just say.
Yeah, this sort of thing is a really good use for the cheap carabiners because these carabiners are not, you're not going to use them to tie off on a rock climb.
No.
But for hold up a cable, they're perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, your needs change over time. And there's one thing that hanging out with George and Thomas has taught me is that there are never enough bags and there's always more purposes than you ever thought about to create a kit. So, and boy, those bags can cost a lot of money sometimes, but that's a sidebar. That's rat hole number 4 that I've gone into and I've come out of very quickly. But your needs change. Adapt for your changing needs, but remember that your ergonomics and your usability are the key. So I'm going to show you now how my kit has changed over time. This is my initial kit that I'm showing on screen. On the left-hand side, so for the audio podcast folks, go to the YouTube listing that's in the show notes. But you're looking at a picture that's 2 yellow Pelican 1500 cases are side by each on the table. On the left-hand kit, there's all my supporting gear. There's a drop-in charger for my VX7 handhelds. I have 2 of them. And 4 batteries and a bunch of chargers. There's the headphone amp, there's my LDG tuner, there's my Signal Link sound card, and there's a little creature comfort device. That's a fancy way of saying it's a 5-volt fan because I like a fresh breeze blowing across me. And I've got an external speaker for one of the 2 radios. In the right-hand bin, I've got that spare speaker, a second spare speaker. I've got my Yaesu dual band crossband capable of VHF, UHF radio, and my Yaesu FT857 and the power supply. And underneath it, I've got all the accessories. So sporting gear in one kit and radios in the other kit. Here was my problem, though. I didn't have redundancy. So now my kits have become, the left-hand kit are two VHF, UHF radios with an independent power supply in them underneath it. So I now only have to put one bin out, because previously I'd have to put out both bins and cross-connect the power between them. So I needed a lot of space. So now I can cut down the desk space I need by half. And then I have HF kit number one. So all my HF stuff is moved into the other bin. But you're saying, but Vince, there's no redundancy there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's not a problem that a credit card can't solve. And so this is when I welcomed into my family the KX3 kit. And so the KX3 kit becomes my backup HF kit, albeit at lower power, but we all know that QRP will work when it needs to. In this kit, I have 15 amp hours of batteries below the plate. I have this in a modular way that I can pull pieces off. I can pull off the pan adapter display. I can pull off the radio quite simply so that I can use it when I'm out in the field. The brackets for these KX series radios are made by GEM products, and they also have a variety of other accessories for the Elecraft radios too. And that's what makes it easy for me to remove that. So now I have between my three bins, I have full redundancy of hardware for VHF, UHF, and for HF. And with an external battery, I can power anything. And I can set these up on a desk, and they can suit my purpose. So now we go back to purpose, right? You think about what you need it for, and you design towards that. So listen, don't forget your lists. This is a public service announcement, and lists upon lists. If you're going to borrow a piece from one kit, put an IOU in that kit so that you don't grab that kit and go thinking it's complete. Keep your stuff well organized so you can do that. Go to the front of my website, scroll down a little bit, and you're going to see Ham Smarter with VE6LK tools for download. And my kit lists are there. Take them and make them your own. If you need a kit list on steroids, contact George, because he has a much bigger kit list than I do. So
I have a tip to put on at this point on your list topic. So our good friend Stuart, who is like Mr. POTA, when the whole POTA thing started, Stuart was like number one, right?
Yeah.
And right. WB1QHS, I think is his call. And Stuart did some really cool videos about how he packs his gear. And one thing that really stuck in my mind was if he took something out of one of his bags, he would put a stick in the bag with a tag on it to indicate that a thing was pulled out. Yep. So if you leave all of your gear in the bag ready to go and you took the battery out to charge it,
yep,
you may not remember to stick it back in. But if you put a painter stick with a tag on it in the bag to indicate that something has been pulled out, it'll remind you that you need to make sure your kit is complete.
I do the same thing with cameras and drones. If I pull the SD card out, I leave it door open or in some state that reminds me of the SD cards in the computer being read or something.
That's like the voice of experience talking. Yeah. Like you don't want to run it. And Thomas, I know you never forget anything when you go to the field.
It's so funny because for me, I do better with my radio gear than I do my camera gear. It's the camera stuff I have to remember to, and I do what Mike's talking about. I leave my the door open on my camera, try to make it really obvious because you're constantly pulling out batteries, putting in new things. But I do have something I say when I've talked with people before, especially if you have a fully self-contained field kit, like one where it's just all in one box or one bag or something, and that's everything, is if you rely on that and you're using it, never pull from one of your self-contained kits to feed another one. Like if something goes wrong, never pull from one to the other. Don't steal from one to feed another one because you'll regret it. And it's right, like what Stuart did. And I mean, putting something in there just to show you that you're missing something is a really good way to at least keep track, because things break, and
Yeah.
you know,
Just to belabor that point, by the way, what you're, sorry, rat hole number 4. So,
Five,
Thomas,
but who's counting?
when you described that, what it really reminded me of is I do the same thing with hand tools. So there's, a dozen of your favorite hand tools, wire cutters, needle nose pliers, your favorite screwdriver. And, I have a go to the field bag of tools and I have a stays at the workbench bag of tools. And I could share tools between them, and I never do because I don't want to grab my go bag of tools to go to the work on the repeater. And then I realize, well, I left the screwdriver back on the workbench. So I have a duplicate set of everything, and one kit stays at home and one kit goes out to the field because I don't want to get caught. Like you go to, especially if you're doing something like repeater site stuff, you drive 3 hours, you get up there and you forgot the rack key or the fuse or the, name it.
It's actually like I think in that world for me, it's soda. I get really paranoid when I go on a long soda hike, like one where you're going to be investing some time, you're going to be investing the bulk of the day to go hit a soda summit. The thing you want to do is go up there and realize that you forgot your SO 239 to BNC mail adapter or something like that you've pulled out. And you're like, and you know how hard it is, like when you've got a female BNC on a radio and you're trying to marry it, it's not easy to do with just like what you have in your bag.
That's
normally.
why you make cables to work without adapters.
There's a joke here about forced marriage, I think, but that's not funny.
This also tests your ingenuity to see if you can make a coax adapter out of a paperclip. Not that anybody's ever had to do that before.
Again, it brought two things. I've actually done that going cycling. I've driven an hour and a half and forgot my shoes. And if you cycle, you can't cycle without your shoes. Anyway, a guy posted this. I'm glad you said that, George. Guy posted this on Facebook the other day and he said, "Oh, how long do you think this coax cable will work? Can I use my coax cable? It got sheared by the lawnmower, so I twisted the ground together and I twisted." Okay, Vince is going to blow his mind. And I twisted the center conductor together and of course the comments were just hysterical. You can't use that. The SWRB through the roof. It's going to blow up your radio, and we all know that's not true. And I wanted to comment on that. Like, you've got to do what you've got to do to get on the air.
That's right.
I have, on more than one occasion, had to recover from that, took 2 Marette connectors and twisted the grounds together and with a MAR connector, because they're really handy because you can't solder aluminum.
Yeah.
And done the same thing and taped the crap out of it. And we've run, you can sweep it. You don't even see it. It's not even there, right? So it's not that fussy is my point.
I've got a video that shows it is fussy because I had to do that in the field, a field repair. We were fixing an antenna at a repeater site, and I didn't have the right. Yeah, at VHF frequency. Okay. So yeah, it was brutal. Different. Yeah, at HF, it's not nearly as critical for sure. So, hey, listen, let me wrap this piece up by just saying, come back to the methodology now, before we open the floor to see how you guys do it. You need to determine your must-have and nice-to-have items. So harness your Kepner-Trigo method. So write it down. What's your must-have? What's your nice to have? And then evaluate your purpose and your locations for use and your mechanical and, dare I say, electrical considerations. So you don't want this thing to be too big or too small, or maybe you do. Maybe you've got a crew of roadies. Maybe you own a trailer. All of these things are valid points and valid design elements for you. And that's just it. This is a personal item, right? But your purpose, your electrical and your mechanical design elements, they drive the functionality in your kit building points. So just remember these 2 things. A kit with narrow focus is going to be lightweight, and a highly flexible kit is anything but. So, that's the method. That's the
Vince,
approach.
I've got a question or two before we do the roundtable. So my first question is, in your experience, what's the most likely thing that's going to fail?
The one that you need the most, because I've discovered over the years that electronic devices have a critical needs detector installed in them.
Absolutely.
and that critical needs detector says, "Screw you! I'm failing because you need me the most right now." What fails the most? Let's give a serious answer to that. The item is the most mechanically exercised in your
Hmm.
kit. So think
And
about
what would
that.
that be in your case?
Are you a phone operator? Oh, that's the microphone cable.
Hmm.
Are you a CW operator? Well, it's the contacts on the key or the cable. Um, do you swap antennas a lot? That's probably going to be your antenna connector. It's the stuff that gets mechanically used a lot.
And so, when you think about it, are those the things you tend to have as redundant, like two paddles or an extra mic, or duplicates of those things?
Um, and at the last event I did, as a matter of fact, I was having an issue with my mic, so I just switched radios because my mics aren't compatible between my radios. I guess
Hmm.
if I went all out, I'd put the same model of radio, two of the same on the deck. But I'm
Yeah,
not
you
George.
should be buying
I'm
two of
not.
the same
I'm not.
exact
I'm
model.
not. Yeah, I'm not Rockefeller. So right.
The buy two of the same or two different things. There's kind of a philosophical debate there, and because the thing, Mike, to your point, buying two of the same makes a lot of sense because you only have one thing to learn. The parts are interchangeable, so I mean that makes 100% logical sense. If you're in a situation where something is doesn't work with that particular radio, unless if it's a mechanical failure, then you're fine. But if it's something about how that radio works, then you're kind of you kind of messed up because I mean I can't think of a good example, frankly. But if I don't know if it's
Keep
like,
digging,
well,
George.
oh, okay, so here's one. I had a Yaesu FT 857. I was using it for POTA with an end-fed half wave. This is a couple years ago, and I key up and then the radio shut off. It turns out the answer was I need a common mode choke because I'm getting too much RF. Now, if you put I don't know, ICOM 7300 in there, it might not have shut off. The Yaesu is very susceptible to that common mode current. So if I
Yeah.
had a second copy of the same Yaesu radio, I'd probably have the same problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think maybe to your point, Vince, I don't know what the right answer there is, but you should think it through so that you can think about, well, what are the conditions under which something's going to poop out, and what do I want to prepare for? Is it better to have two of the same thing or two different things?
Yeah. What do you want to mitigate? Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. In my world, I've standardized on BNC in my field kit as much as possible. Even the 857, I have a 90-degree angle adapter on the back, and it goes out to a BNC because BNC is quick and easy.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's a point of standardization and power pole the world, right?
Watch out
But
for those 90s. Those are the only connectors that have bit my ass so many
Oh,
times.
really?
on what the PL259s?
PLC 59 MBNCs, they just for some
Oh,
reason,
yeah,
The
no.
adapters.
yeah,
The only 90s I use are Amphenol brand.
yeah.
I've learned that lesson the hard way.
So
Uh,
if you
but
also if you're making custom cables, you can have 90-degree connectors put on rather than use
sure.
adapters.
Correct. Yeah.
So that and actually the 90-degree connectors are fairly
Pretty
easy
good.
to put on
Hmm.
because there's usually a little cap that unscrews and you
In
can
fact, they're easier.
they're easy. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in tight space, right? So
Yeah.
anyway,
Actually, and I think you bring up a really good point too when you're talking about using an Amphenol when you're going for an adapter or something like that that's so mission critical. And I kind of believe what you're saying, that the things that get the most wear that are used the most mechanically, and like I would say something if you're cheaping out on that you're going to find it will fail a lot are cable assemblies. If you're just
yeah,
buying cheap cable assemblies that are, those are something that I think sometimes that are consumables. Those things like cable assemblies that eventually, no matter how good they are, they'll eventually wear out if you're using them a lot and you're packing them a lot and they're
Hmm.
getting a lot of use. I think it's better to invest a lot in those consumables as opposed to just saying, "Oh, I'll buy, 10 of these that cost the price of two really good ones," because I just think that you need to invest in those. If you're serious about doing radio, just because you'll go out to the field, you don't want to find out that one's failing on you. It's not good for your gear. It's just much better to reduce those chances by either building or buying something that's good quality.
I would also add to that, if you're going to make your own cables, buy the right tool. Don't cheap out on the tool. So like a lot
Oh,
of times
yes.
you go buy a
Oh,
crimp
yes.
tool and the crimp tool is like 50, $60 and you think, man, that's a lot of money for a tool. I could
Hell
just
no, that's
smash
cheap.
it with a pair of pliers. Like, well, there's a reason why
Hmm.
the tool made for it is more expensive. It'll be designed for the purpose.
Right.
So I would extend that thought to the tool
I,
necessary to make the cables.
I
If
even
it's
bought a ferrule crimping tool.
way to go. Me too.
Yeah.
Did you buy it from Farrell's Direct, my favorite company?
No, some no name on Amazon.
Yeah. Farrell's Direct. It cracked me up one day.
Barrels direct.
When I was trying to figure out where to buy Farrell's. I did a web search and found farrellsdirect.com, of course, which turns out to be a great supply of Farrell's. Anyway,
Rat hole.
so
Oh,
I'm
half a
curious,
rat
like
hole.
from what's that, Mike?
Half a rat hole.
Yeah, half a rat. Let's not go there.
Half a rat,
So I want to do kind of a
6.5 then.
quick, go around the table here and get everybody else's feedback. I mean, in many ways, a lot of what you're saying, Vince, is stuff that I think most of us would go, yep, yep, yep. So what I'm curious about from everybody else is is there anything that Vince didn't cover that you would add to that, or for your particular use case that's different from what Vince talked about? So Thomas, why don't we start with you?
Well, for me, I really love Pelican cases, but the only thing I think Vince's philosophy is very solid, and he brought up so many good points that I think about, and in fact include in a lot of my presentations when I talk about field radio kits. And we didn't exactly get together and go go for those. It's just you find these things out if you go to the field a lot, and you're using your stuff a lot. I would say, in fact, what I'll try to do here, since we are doing this as video, I'll try to screen share here real quick and show you where I've gotten my experience here recently was when we were in Canada and I had to kind of kit out. Let's see, it's going to have to make it allow. Let's see, is it showing everything okay now? There we
Yeah,
go. You can see that.
yeah.
Um, I had to kit out. I did a post about this because I put a lot of thought before I left uh, into how to have like an ultimate backpack field kit for all of our Canadian travels. And the reason I had to think through it a bit is because this is not what I normally do. Like the types of parks I hit in Canada, a lot of them are urban. A lot of them I'm not necessarily going to be at a picnic table. Some of them I may be doing some hiking in them. I was planning to do some soda and stuff. And so I wanted my backpack to have everything I wanted in it. And I could, it was to, in some sense, it was a bit modular because I would, depending on what I was going to do that day, I may take some stuff out of there, but then put it right back in when I got back home. But at the end of the day, I try to design everything so that I could swap out the radios. So I kept my radios in their own cases. So, for example, here is my KX2 kit that's in uh, what was it, a low pro hard-sided shell case, and it in and of itself is its own field kit because I've got a KX2 in here. I got my KXPD2 paddles right here. I've got the AX1 antenna, and then I've got logging stuff in here. So actually, with that, I can get on the air and in a pinch and do an activation. But that actually fits in my bag. This is a fully self-contained kit here too with my MTR3B, my mountain topper, and that all fits in a Pelican 1060 case. And I can kind of make these a little bit bigger actually so you can see those. And so that's everything. That's the antenna, that's the throw line, it's the radio, it's the batteries, it's everything.
It's even the logbook.
It's the logbook, it's a pencil. I could have made some of these even smaller, and I could have, try to work on it a little bit more, but it worked fine. It fits in the case fine. It's pretty easy to put in there. I mean, there's actually an 8 ounce weight in here as well, in that. The This is my kit for my KH1, which actually is in a Pelican Micro M40 case, which is a very small case, but this actually has my KH1, which is a very, very compact radio anyway. But I like having my radios in Pelican cases if I'm throwing them in a soft backpack. Because they're going to get jostled around. And if I drop it or, whatever, if it falls in a river, at least maybe that radio will be fine, even if the other stuff isn't. I even have like a little angled bracket in here so that I can set up my KH1 and operate it on a tabletop if I want to, as opposed to putting a line in a tree. Um, and the thing that is important to me when I go out is that like I have a way to Vince was talking about the fact that you have like a table, or do you want to sit on the ground, right? I no longer enjoy sitting on the ground when I'm operating radio. And a lot of that's because I don't mind sitting on the ground in general. And in my early days of doing summits on the air, I just kind of, sit on a rock or a log or whatever I could find. But I realized if I'm sitting down for like 45 minutes or something, I'll often stand up. And I've done this on a summit before where I'd stand up and like I couldn't feel my right leg because it had completely gone to sleep. So I carry a chair with me, and then I also carry a knee board. And my knee board will work with quite a lot of my small portable radios. And the great thing about the knee board is it straps to your leg. It holds everything really securely. It gives you a table that you can log on. The radio's held in place and it's at a good ergonomic position. And so I don't need a picnic table. I don't need anything else. And then I carry a Helinox folding hiking chair, which weighs like next to nothing. And it fits in my backpack. In fact, I think I probably got by the way, here's a little rabbit hole for you. Anybody know
Uh-oh.
about Savage
Rabbit hole number
Industries?
7.
Is
Does
that
anybody know about Savage Industries?
No.
I
Oh,
I do.
that's you mean
Adam
Adam
Savage.
Savage?
Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have his work bib, workshop bib.
Yes, that's a great one.
Yeah.
This is his bedroll, and this thing is freaking amazing. Like it's
Uh,
made of the same material that sails are made out of, and for boats. And the other side of it has like this washed wool, and we use it all the time for picnics and all kinds of things. It stays in my car. And I've done activations on these, but it is such a great thing. It's not cheap, but it's great. Um, and you can see kind of like what my backpack looks on the inside. This is not the best, but you can kind of I
Oh,
I
we're
had to
we're
think this
losing
through.
you.
I wanted, whoops, let me just do
And he's
Okay, you're
back.
back.
Oh dear. Okay. Um,
Fire
gotta
away.
love rural broadband. So inside my pack, I have, I've got my chair here. I've got I've got hiking poles because I really believe in those, at least in this point of my life. I like to save my knees when I'm hiking. I've got my throw line kit if I'm going to use a line in a tree. I also have the POTA 20 Explorer pole in here, which fits in my backpack no problem, along with a stake that Mike Roberge designed, KE8PTX. Great design, great guy. Um, I have other things in here I have to use, like the ground cloth for my chair if it's soft ground.
There you go again.
Assemblies. Oh dear. Okay, let me just turn off. Let me
You
turn
can't turn off the
off
video. We
my.
need your
Let me
video.
stop the share here. I know, I know. I'll turn it off for just a second, and we'll just pretend like this is just a podcast. But basically, inside that backpack, I have a place for everything. I know where it is. I can take it apart. I know when something's missing out of the pack when I go to the field, which is the other thing. Vince's stuff's pretty self-contained, and everything's right there in its case. But like, if you pull something out and you forget it, it's probably going to be conspicuous when you go back to look in the case later because you're used to where everything is. And so, to that end, before you take and you make a field kit and you put together something, before you ever take it to the field, you need to go out to like your backyard or something like that and deploy the thing. And that's when you're going to find if you're missing some key ingredient, if
yeah.
you've left something out, right? And the more you do those deployments, the more you take the radio kit out, the more you remember where things go, what things you need. It just becomes second nature. And using this, I use the same kind of field backpack. Traded out radios a little bit, but I use the same thing probably a dozen or more times while I was in Canada easily. And I refined it even when I came back. I was like, ooh, I think I know something else I'm going to do here and where to put things. So yeah, that's sort of how I do it when you because I end up having to remove things from my kit a lot. And I just think that knowing where everything is and taking the time to get to learn it. So you can basically turn out the lights in your living room at night and pull everything out of the bag and put everything back in where it's supposed to go. If you can do that, you're in good shape.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good advice. I think that the thing, my takeaway from what you're talking about there is the more you do anything like this, the more you figure out not only where everything is and how to organize it, but you figure out what works and what doesn't work for you.
Yep.
And it's interesting for me to figure out what was a surprising like winner, and other things are like, nope, didn't need that thing that I thought was so important. And
You know, it's so funny. Adam reminded me that on QRP, or like back in 2013 or 14 or something, he sent in a video showing how what he put in his field kit, and he kind of said in it, I think I've really got this thing figured out now. And it was based on an FT817. And if you know Adam K6ARK, like his whole deal is he keeps minimizing and minimizing and minimizing. And like you look at it then and you're like, I can't believe Adam made that kit, because that kit looks big and clunky compared to what he does now. But that's the whole deal, is he's used it and he's gone out and he's refined this over time. And you can really learn a lot from people like that um, go out and then they kind of demonstrate what's in their kit, because you're like, oh, maybe I don't need all these extra things I'm throwing in my kit.
I think a lot of that is your own personal journey of discovery, because
Hmm.
what makes perfect sense to you up front, you eventually figure out, well, maybe I don't really need that thing,
That's right.
and you can get more minimal. But there's also a point where you kind of go, you know what? That thing just doesn't, I need the big version,
Yep.
like a backpacking chair. Some backpacking chairs are great, and then some are just a little bit too wiggly. And some people are like, the wiggly chair is fine, and other people are like, I don't care. It's just I'll spend the extra pound and get the more comfortable one.
Yep.
And like we're all a little bit different in terms of what we like, and I think you over time your tastes kind of change, um,
That's
and
right.
so yeah, you kind of
I
change what you're doing.
I
Mike?
just did all of that with my 10 gig rover station
Oh,
because
really? What did you change
it
out
was
around?
taking me 2 trips to get from the car to wherever. Now,
Hmm.
sometimes there is no distance, but sometimes there is. And the kit is the RF deck with the antenna, which has a handle on it, the tripod, which is a surveyor's tripod, but it's got a strap on it. And I had two other boxes. One was the small Pelican case with the logbook, the headphones, what else is in there? The sighting compass, which is key because you're pointing. And then there was the battery pack. And it was a classic, you know, 10 amp hour, 12-volt battery. And so I was trying to figure out how to get rid of the battery pack. And so I did some math on, I usually operate for a couple or 3 hours, and I went through my power budget. And I decided that I could get away with a 8 amp hour, 12 volts, or even a 6 amp hour, uh, was it lithium ferrous oxide? Is that right? Battery, which are incredibly light, like the same as the Buono ones, I guess you guys use.
Hmm.
But I can
Lithium
find
iron
that
phosphate.
thank you, that one, lithium iron phosphate.
Hmm.
So I can find those on Amazon. And sure enough, I was able to find a battery that weighs what, a pound and a half now rather than 9 pounds. I can fit it in the Pelican case that's got the logbook, couple of jumper cables, headset or anything little, pen, paper. And so now I can make it out of the car. I throw the tripod on my shoulder or my back, grab the antenna and RF deck in one hand, little Pelican case on the other, and I'm good to go. But I also made sure to reduce my single points of failure. Now, everything I take's a one of. So, um, and I know Vince is losing sleep over this, but anything that had an adapter on it is now a cable. If it's SMA to BNC for the 10 meg reference from the OCXO, it's now that. It used to be
Yeah.
SMA to BNC to double BNC cable okay, and it's not a critical cable. I buy it on Amazon for $6. 6 inches long, fits perfectly. And so I did all that. And the only thing I have left to do, and I'm going to probably do this tomorrow, is the front of the unit can get banged. So, and if you bang the front of the front of the unit has the feed horn on it, it's pretty beefy, but underneath it is the business end of the transverter with the TR relays. So I am going to build a cage in front of it, to come out like a big U out and around, and it's actually going to be pretty easy to do. So that should take care of any final, it banged in the car or I hit a
Mm.
tree or something while I'm walking through the woods. So, but whatever you were doing, if you're mobile or urgent or there for a disaster, you have to practice it and fine tune it, and Vince's stuff is mission critical, when he's had to do the flood in Calgary, which they got no warning on and stuff. That's all super mission critical. So why does Vince double up on everything? Exactly for that reason. Mine's just Saturday morning. Well, if I break something, I'm done, and I don't care. I got there. I
Yeah.
tried. So, and that's part of your mission, right? Whatever your mission is. So that was my story on the whole thing.
So one thing that you're making me think of too, Mike, is that a lot of times, like when we go out and we're operating, like some people are more VHF, UHF focused. Some people like you are way up there in the
Yeah.
gigahertz range. And so your gear looks completely different. Like your setup has nothing in common really with like an HF setup, where you may have a wire antenna or you've got something. And a lot of thinking through your field kit too and your go boxes has more to do with when I arrive at the site where I'm going to operate, how will this look when I deploy it? And by that I mean like if I take my backpack, I'm going to open up my backpack, and what I love about the backpack I was showing you an image of earlier is it has that kind of like almost clamshell opening. So that I can open it up and all my gear is still in the backpack, because the last thing you want to do is take small things and put them on the ground with grass and stuff. It'll just all disappear, right? Especially on a forest floor or something. And so I imagine like when you're doing your and so like with Vince's, he said mission critical. That's the reason why you kind of want all these things in a fixed place where the Pelican case is the desktop,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
where everything is in a very logical place. It's very ergonomic. And in your case, Mike, you're going out with something that, looks, kind of different than anything else I have, because you've got feed horns and all these other things. But you've got to be comfortable operating it when you deploy it, and you've got to have it in some kind of configuration so that what your site's going to look like, how you do that. And even like you said, you don't want it rattling around your car when you you got to think about all that stuff. And it's kind of fun. I think that's the great thing about amateur radio is we all have our own way of doing things. We have different applications, like if it's MCOM or if it's just for FunCom. And then we have like, different types of equipment for, from everything from HF gear to microwave stuff to EME, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever your project is.
And that's exactly it, right? So just so many people come to me and say, "Well, how should I build my Go kit? I want to buy an FTDX10, or I want to buy an HW101, and I need to put it into some sort of kit." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, if you want to build a kit around a particular radio, fill your boots. But why don't you think about where you want to take this HW101? You're probably not going to do soda, um, because you have to walk away from your vehicle and like carry batteries and stuff, right? So think about your purpose. Go back to the fundamentals of think about your purpose. How much do you want it to weigh? Yeah, money's a consideration here too. How much do you want to spend? Let's call it what it is, right?
Hmm.
But think about your purpose. Think about those requirements first, and then you can't go too far wrong.
Paul, how about you? What are your thoughts around the whole kitting up stuff?
Well, it's evolved over time. When I started, when I wanted to try POTA, but I didn't have portable equipment, and then I ended up getting the 857D, and then I started figuring out and because I didn't really know, it's like I'm going to put everything in here.
Hmm.
So I got the 4U Gator rack bag, and I'm thinking I'm going to put the tuner, and I'm going to put the radio, and I'm going to put this and a big speaker, and I'm going to put the battery in the back and a bunch of stuff. And I'm talking to this guy I know who said, "You're going to be sorry that you're doing that." And I'm like, "No, George, it'll be okay."
Oh,
And
that guy.
that guy. And then you suggested you don't want the battery in the box.
Mm-hmm.
You want the battery separate because if something happens to the battery, it's easy enough to just swap out batteries and not have to open up the rack box and get in there and extricate stuff. And so that, at least that much I listened to you up front. So yeah. But so I went through my first year of POTA with that. And it's heavy, and I had the control head for the 857 on a remote cable on a little bitty Manfrotto tripod, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. I can get this out here and angle it right, and I've got all these things, and then I started to realize once I started doing POTA, when Jack, my friend N9ITB, said, "Okay, stop hemming and hawing. I've been doing this for 2 years. Meet me at the park on Saturday. I'm going to show you how to do this." So then I started actually doing it. And then over time, I started realizing, you know what? This bag is pretty heavy and big and kind of awkward. So after that first year, that's when I started to rethink. And I would carry all my cables and my accessories and everything in this like carry-on suitcase. So it's like I got this big heavy bag full of all the stuff. And then I started to think, maybe let's break this down into some modular, smaller bags. And Harbor Freight is your friend, for those of us here. And what's worse is they just opened one here in town, so I don't have to think about, do I want to drive to the half an hour to the next community? It's like, no, I just 5 minutes down the
Oh,
road, I just go in and buy stuff.
oh, thank God. So you've effectively outsourced the strategic Apache case reserve,
I have my
Yes.
own. I
but
have
you've
my own
you've outsourced
strategic
the
Apache.
auxiliary.
Yes.
Yes, that's
I
good. Good
have
for
I
you.
have 3 or 4 every time they go on sale. I am helpless,
That's
and I
rat
go
hole
in and
number
buy
eight.
one.
Here,
Yeah.
I'd
So
like to
I
see how
have
they get ready to get on their cruise, and I bet you it's all Apache cases instead of like regular
Yeah.
suitcases.
so
Wait, and Paul,
I
you brought
have
up a point, speed of deployment, right? You
yeah.
need it. Yeah.
And when I really started to notice it is when I would do some activations where I'd like to do a quick thing after work, because I commute from Northwest Indiana into Chicago on the train, and my station is a mile south of a national park, the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. So when I come out of the train station, if I turn left and go up like half a mile, I'm in the park. So if I want to do a quick activation on the way home, I would fold down the back seat in the car, and I put this big rat box on the it knocked my radio over. That was good. Um, I would put this big rack box there, and then I'd have to find a place to put the control head with the tripod and all this, and sit in the back and sit at a weird angle and everything. I'm like, this is not what I really how I want this to be, because I'm learning things that I can do, and I'm learning that sometimes getting there and setting up fast is good. So that's when the first one I built was the 857. I took the stuff out of the Gator, and I put it in an Apache 4800. And I started to look online at some designs and stuff, and I wanted it to be all self-contained, um, except for power. And I wanted it to be on a plate that would tilt up, so it would tuck away to close the lid and everything. But then when I wanted to operate, I would lift it up so I could see all the controls and everything. So I struggled for a while to figure out what will hold the weight of the radio and the tuner and stuff. And then I realized I just walked over to Walmart and I bought a $4 quarter inch thick heavy duty polyethylene cutting board. which is also really easy to drill through. So I put a little piano hinge across the back, and I mounted all the bits and pieces on this, and then I figured out a way with the cases have that vent screw in the front. Well, I took that out, and I just found a thumb screw that's the same thread on the rod and made it longer. So I've got a little thing on the front of that plate. So I lift the plate up, screw that screw in, and it rests on that. And then I lift the plate up and I back the screw out, and then it drops down into the box. And that works really well. I put on the back of the case, I put power pole, a goes into and a goes out of, so I can put the battery in and I can power an accessory like, say, for example, a contesting console. And then I also, in the past year, I put a PL259 bulkhead connector back there. So the RF and the power is just coming out the back of the case. I don't have cables going everywhere. And I like that. And it folds up. Nothing's hanging out. And I don't have to unzip the bag and fold the flap down and open up the back of the thing. And then when I got the G90, I wanted to do a similar thing. So I wanted it more compact because that doesn't need the tuner. So I put that in fact, I have that one here. So it's similar. It's got power and RF on the back. And because of the ribs down here, the feet, it's all behind that. So you can set it down and it won't touch them. And then on the inside, this one I didn't have out. I had the 857 one out at Hamvention, but I've got the control head here. The chassis is under the plate. Because the G90 doesn't have a speaker output, I've got a powered speaker here, a little JBL powered speaker I pulled out of the e-waste dumpster at work. And then I've got, this is the little prototype OHIS radio interface. And so everything here, and this one was simple. I was trying to figure out, because this is a lot lighter, because it doesn't have all the weight. And I'm struggling with what do I use to mount everything on. And then somebody kept suggesting get laminated aluminum polyethylene panels. And I'm like, well, where do I find that? And some guy goes, it's sign material. Oh. And the light bulb came on because one of my best friends has a sign shop. So I said, hey, Ted, do you have this stuff? He goes, yeah. I said, you got any scraps? He said, sure. I said, I need a piece this big. So he cut me a piece, and it's very rigid. It's light and it's easy to cut and drill. So, but I have just some sliding latch connectors that I can slide out and it sits up. And then when I'm done, I push them back in and it goes and folds. So again, it's quick. And for this one is smaller and lighter. So, if I want to do a quicker activation where it doesn't take up as much space, I got this. And I decided this year when I was at Hamvention and I stopped by the Bioenno booth, I thought, you know what, this one is small enough. There's plenty of space underneath because I don't have all of the other stuff. Maybe because this radio takes a lot less power, I want to add a battery inside. So I bought, I think it's like a 6 amp hour battery that fits in the corner under the plate. And then I've got an isolation switch here that if I flip the switch, and I had to label the plate so I would remember, flip the switch this way, I can use the internal battery. So like in October, when I take that rove down south to visit my high school reunion, for some of the parks, if I want to just stop real quick and I don't want to take the big battery box out and everything, I can just flip that switch and run totally internal with just RF connected to it. So
With that experience of building both of those out, was there anything that surprised you, where at the end of it you thought, "Well, here's something I wasn't expecting to change in how I thought about all this"?
Yeah. Um, think longer before you drill.
Oh, you
And
mean you don't follow the rule of measure once, cut twice? That's the
yeah,
way I do it.
exactly. Um, so because like I had mentioned, the Go box that was donated to our club, I want to rebuild. So I'm taking some of the experiences that I've had with the two I've done, or the three that I've done, and what I've learned over the past few years of portable operations. And I've also learned that I am going to spend a lot of time with paper,
Hmm.
drawing things out and rearranging and thinking before I start drilling holes and mounting stuff and going, oh no, I need to change that. So it comes down to a lot of, the planning that Vince is talking about is think about exactly how are you going to use this. I mean, I have to think about this one from the perspective of a variety of club members and not just exactly the way I wanted it to be.
Hmm.
So I'm going to keep that in mind, and I'm going to do a lot of paper planning before I start, because I have, well, I think we all have this disease where you're like, oh, I can do this. So you hop on Amazon and you order some stuff, and then by the time that stuff gets here, you realize, yeah, no, I've changed my mind. I want to do something else. So now you have boxes full of parts that you originally thought you were going to use, but you're not. So
I
that's
thought I was the only one that did that.
oh no,
I feel
no.
so much better now.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of stuff that was going to be great, and it's like, no, I've changed my mind in the time it took to get here. So I think it comes down to learning by experience. And I mean, the thing is, if you don't get out there and do it a lot, then you don't really. That's the thing. The more you do of that thing, the more portable operations you do, the more you learn what you did, how it works, and how it could change. And because like Vince was saying too, his has changed from the first photos to the second
Yeah.
ones, and that's from experience of using it.
And which is a really good reason. I've talked to people before who've talked about parks on the air, and there was one guy who runs a YouTube channel that said he cornered me at a convention or something, and he said, "Yeah, but parks on the air, like, does it really help with MCOM or anything? Like, I don't really see anything like that. You're not doing MCOM stuff." He's thinking of like how traffic's passed, I guess, and everything. And I said, yeah, but you're taking your gear and starting, you're setting up in most cases, a fully portable station,
Yep.
and you get used to it. It becomes like second nature. So I would say that if you are interested in emergency communications, for example, and that's the goal of your Go kit, that you should be doing some parks on the air, because it gives you a really wonderful excuse to not only deploy your gear and take it and get used to it, but actually operate it and make sure it's working the way it's supposed to, because you're
Yeah.
making contacts the whole time. And you're training your ear during all that too. The more that you're using your radio in different settings with different noise levels, everything, it's training your ear as well when you go out there. So use it as a really good practice, good exercise.
And with tools and antennas and stuff too, you learn what you really do need
Yeah.
that you maybe didn't think about before. It's like, all right, I got to go get one of those and put it in the tool bag. And one interesting little thing here, because I am starting to work my brain back into CW, and if I want to try that, I understand that the 857 and the G90, the built-in keys behave totally different. So in my brain, I need something that's consistent, because like
Mm.
that's also different from the keyer built into my 590 or my AccuKeyer, which is how I learned. So thanks to recommendations from you guys, I picked up a little Pico keyer, which will stay in little one of my Go cases, so that no matter which radio, if I want to do CW, my keying experience is going to be the same.
I think that's a great learning, because if you just start from scratch, you'd go, oh, all the radios have a keyer built in. I just plug in my paddle and go, until you do it. And then you have this epiphany of like, wait a minute, that's an inconsistent
Yeah.
behavior. And I find it unpleasant. And so I'm going to solve that problem. And like starting out, you would never go, well, I guess I need a portable keyer. So only through experience do you really learn those things.
Yep. So, yeah, so that's my experience. And I mean, it's going to keep changing. The more POTA I do, the more things I'm, and later this year, if things go right, because you guys are a bad influence on me, I'm going to pick up either a 6100 or a 6200. And then I'm going to be making a smaller, that one, I don't know that it'll be like mounted to a plate like these. That might just be because it's really small, but all together.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just a case with the slots for, the radio and a microphone, and just take that out, because that one is really easy to take out and set on the table. So
Or
I don't know.
you could take a page from George there and just mount it to a trailer. Use that as your kit.
That's a third category.
Yeah, well, there you have it. So, but
right.
yeah, so.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up with a few thoughts. I mean, it's hard to add anything to what all you guys have already said, because I think you've touched on all the key points. So maybe some of this that I'm going to mention is kind of repetitive, and maybe some of it's not. But I'm going to put in the show notes all of the things I'm about to mention, and then some, including specific lists of recommended buying options. Because, sorry, Vince.
Because welcome to the ham radio workbench. That's why.
Yep. Well,
yes,
yeah.
Warm up your credit card. So let me make a couple of philosophical observations, and I think a lot of this very much is in along the lines, Vince, of what you were saying in terms of planning, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, and so that quite resonates with me. Frankly, all you guys are well organized, and that reduces my stress. When one of the things I like about this topic is, if I plan for stuff like this, then there's less likelihood I'm going to mess it up, and then more likely I'm going to enjoy it. So all this is in the spirit of trying to get organized so that I enjoy my outings when I get a chance. So here's a half dozen thoughts. Thought number one is do you build your kits to make things modular or all in one? And there's no right or wrong answer. Like Thomas, your examples of the small kits that are all in ones make sense. And when you're doing a really big kind of station, that's kind of hard to do that because everything's kind of heavy. So modularity makes more sense. So that's one of the considerations when you're thinking about building your Go kits of, is this going to be a modular system or is this going to be an all-in-one system? So that leads me to, I think, a very fundamental thought that I had for my own organizing. And that is that I tend to think about my portable radio kits in one of two categories. And I don't really have a good name for this. And so I've sort of hijacked the terms POTA and SOTA to describe the two different categories. Okay, so to me, a SOTA radio kit is one that I'm going to put in a backpack and carry for some distance. It could be half a mile, it could be a couple of miles. It's light enough and small enough that I'm going to carry it somewhere. So it's not going to be the 40 amp hour battery. It's not going to be, the Yagi. It's going to be more like, Thomas, like your QRP kits where an all-in-one makes more sense to me. So the radio, the antenna, the coax, the paddle, whatever that's going to go in there, all goes into one case, and that fits in the backpack. And if you're a neurotic backpacker like I am, then you look at things like, do I really need to include the sticker on the box? Maybe I could peel that off. So, you can kind of go nuts about making things smaller and lighter and more compact, but that's kind of one category. The other category is what I would call a POTA gear set, which means I'm going to either sit at my car or I'm going to walk 50 feet, maybe a couple 100 feet max. I'm going to take one trip if I could do it, maybe two. So that means you can carry more stuff and you can run more power and have more options. So to me, that's kind of a POTA kind of category. So then once I look at that, then like I said, for the soda stuff, it's like everything goes in a bag. But for the POTA activity, that's a little bit too constrained. I want to run a little bit more power. I want to run maybe a little 50-watt amplifier or a 100-watt radio. So I've gone down the modularity path with that stuff. And I've got too much stuff. So my problem is not, man, I wish I had another antenna tuner. My problem is I've got like 5 QRP antenna tuners. Which one am I going to take? And I'm not going to take them all. So I kind of have to whittle things down. And so I finally got to a point where I've got my system, maybe it'll never be done, but to the point where I'm pretty happy. So I think about the most essential thing is you have the radio in a bag or a box, whatever, and that is just the radio and anything that is unique to the radio. And usually that means the microphone and a power cord. and maybe that's it. Sometimes it's an antenna tuner, but that is kind of like the radio bag. And then I've got my accessory bag. And the accessory bag has got everything else besides the radio. So the accessory bag has got clipboard and notepad and paddle and coax and a Pactena infed half wave and that stake thingy that I learned about from Vince that Paul, you were showing earlier. So it's everything besides the radio that you need to get on the air in a fairly comfortable fashion. And by the way, that POTA gear bag is completely radio independent. So it's the same accessory bag that I would use for any radio. Whereas the radio bag is unique to that particular radio. So that way, because what I started doing was I started to go like, well, for this radio, here's everything. And for that radio, here's everything. And that makes sense to me for a small QRP radio, but for more of a, bigger radio setup, then it's like, I got like 4 paddles and one in each bag. And did I take it out of the bag? And so I have one accessory bag. And that's all you really need. Beyond that, well, you need a mast to put up the antenna. So beyond that, everything else is optional. So the next thing that's on the list is a laptop bag. So I have, and Thomas, you'll appreciate this, a Paradox Micromanager. It's the perfect laptop bag because I can fit my used Panasonic CF20 10-inch tablet laptop in there and the mouse and a DC charging cable. And so that's perfect for that. It's fairly small. And then what else? Oh, there's also to handle my neurotic tendency to bring everything. I also have the backup bag. So there's an additional nylon bag that's got stuff that I don't ever expect to take out of the car, but I want it just in case. So what goes in, it's almost called the just in case, by the way. That was kind of a joke. What goes in the just in case is stuff like extra coax, bandpass filter, AC charger for the laptop, all the things that you would never take to the POTA table. But just in case, you could put it in the car, and it just goes in the back of the car and just stays there. You could take it out when you're not going on POTA. But while you're out on an outing, it just sits in the back and you plan to never touch it. So that's where you put the extra stuff that way you don't haul all that junk to the table. The other thing that I'll throw out is we talked about like the chair. And I also have split my camp gear into POTA soda buckets. So the soda version of the chair, and the only accessory is the chair, is the Helinox Chair Zero, which I think is that the one you were talking about?
It's the one I have, yeah.
Yeah, Chair Zero, great chair, comfortable, super lightweight, great choice.
Sturdy.
Sturdy. But for POTA stuff, it takes a couple minutes to put it together, and I don't want to suffer that. And I learned, like, for POTA things, I want to set things up as fast as possible. So I got a less expensive chair for REI. It's kind of a low chair, and the thing, all you have to do is open it up, and you set it down. And when you're done, you just fold it up and take it. There's no complicated maneuver and repacking stuff.
Wait a minute. this is reasonably priced.
Shocking, isn't
Who
it?
are you and what have you done with George Safaropoulos?
Vince has been a very bad influence on my spending behavior.
It's very
Next, you'll have to
reasonably
go into
priced.
Harbor Freight.
See, the funny thing is, like when I first looked at this REI chair, and what's it called? It's the
Camp Low Chair.
Yeah, the Camp Low Chair. When I first saw it, I thought it doesn't seem fiddly enough to satisfy my desire to make things geeky and complicated. But you literally open it up and sit on it, and then close it up and throw it in the car. And it's not a backpacking chair; you'd never carry it with you, but it's small enough to carry at the park, and sets up like instantly. So I love that.
Wow, that is affordably priced.
And it's very comfortable. And by the way,
am I on the right podcast? Because I'm
well,
confused now.
you are, because you have to buy the accessory that goes with it, which is the Nemo Moon Lander table that Thomas liked.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
So the Moon Lander table is the perfect accessory because it's really well made. It's a beautiful piece of design, I gotta say. I mean, it's mechanically just beautifully made, beautiful design, super stable. That's a perfect height to go along with either of those chairs. And by the way, I've found that there are clones, knockoffs on Amazon for like a third the price. But so if you want to experiment a little bit, look at the Nemo Moon Lander, then go on Amazon and search for that, and you'll find a bunch of knockoffs. The other thing that's kind of a luxury item that I found sort of useful is you can get a sunshade to clamp onto your chair. And the one that is, there's a Helinox one that's very, very lightweight. It's very flimsy, but it's very lightweight, and it works pretty well, but it's a little fiddly to set up. But there's a heavier weight one. So for POTA, GCI makes this chair shade thing that unfolds and clamps to the back of your already set up chair and gives you a nice little sunshade. And it's great. Again, it's super fast to set up, very comfortable. So anyway, that's the approach that I took. I think the main aha for me was not trying to put everything I could think about in the POTA bag. So like, do I really need a headlamp at POTA? Like, no, because I'm never going to do POTA at night. I mean, I don't need I don't need a flashlight. I probably don't need a pocket knife. I probably don't need a USB battery charger battery bank. However, would it be nice to have those things? Sure. Put them in the just in case bag and leave it in the trunk. That way I feel good that I've got it, but I don't have to carry it to the table, the POTA table.
Well, in my case, I put USB ports into my battery box.
Yeah.
So that
you've got that covered.
If I have to charge my phone or whatever, I got that. So
last thought is just since you mentioned batteries, Paul, the other thing is I for a higher power station, 50 watt, 100 watt station, I have a Bioenno battery in a case that's small enough that I could throw it in a backpack or I could carry it to the table. For QRP stuff, I do leave a battery in the bag. So like my normal POTA QRP radio is a 705, and I've got this really cool wind camp bag that they just started selling, and it's designed for the 705. It's a compartmentalized bag. So it puts the 705 kind of at the top. You lay it on its tummy and the radio faces you, and there's two little compartments behind it. You can stick in a Bioenno battery. You can stick in a little 50 watt amp. You can put accessories in there. They're great. So I would put the Bioenno battery, like your 6 amp hour, exactly the same one. I put that in my 705 bag. But for like the 891, then I have a 12 amp hour bigger battery that's in a nylon shrouded case that I could either put in a case or I could throw it in a backpack. So anyway, I'll put all this stuff on the list, on the show notes. And last thing is, I also, speaking of knowing their purpose here, most of the time when I do,
you mean Bag Talk, a subdivision of Ham Radio Workbench?
Yes.
Yeah,
wholly owned subdivision.
Wholly owned.
Yeah.
So here's the last comment, which is not really bag related. Sorry. Most of the time when I'm doing POTA, I usually go with one or more people. And if you're there with 2 or 3 people and everybody wants to operate, you're just going to irritate each other because you all want to be on 20 meters, right? So that's a disaster. And you can bring bandpass filters and make someone go to 40 or 15 or something. And even still, it kind of works okay. Kind of not. But I have an extra bag which is my multi-person POTA bag. And the main thing that's in there is bandpass filters. Because if I'm going by myself, I don't care. But if I'm there with 2 or 3 people, then sometimes having the bandpass filters is handy. Plus a few extra cables and stuff like that. By the way, the last time we did POTA, I went out with Alan N7AKG and Dan N7CQR and Bob, who I forgot Bob's call. Anyway, so there are 4 of us doing POTA. And at any one time, at least 3 of us are like, want to be on the air. And so we figured out the best way to do that rather than interfere with each other is one person would either call CQ or respond to somebody. And as soon as that contact was made, we'd hand it to the next guy. Not necessarily handing the paddle or the mic. We'd just say, okay, you do it with your radio. And then the next person would make the same contact and we'd kind of go around the group. So that way we didn't have to collide with each other on the air at the same time. And we could all work a station. So anyway, that's kind of my punchline. So I kind of go along with what you guys are saying with just a few minor tweaks.
I am going to comment in. George has put something in the show notes, and it's George's pick for a POTA gear bag, and that's the Cabela's size 3500 tackle bag, and yours truly uses the Bass Pro Shops 3600 sized bag. So that's what George saw at Hamvention. So it's slightly bigger than the one George is holding up here on video.
So this is
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a shoulder strap. I doubled it over to make it a handle, but it's a shoulder strap.
Yeah.
I can see for my 10 gig stuff, the more stuff I can hang off my shoulders,
yeah,
then I still have a free hand.
Mike, this is great. I learned something about myself. I organize things to be very specific. Like I'll take a bag and I'll take a bunch of stuff and I'll figure out how to like Tetris it together, Jenga it together so it all fits perfectly. Then you get to the POTA site and you take it all out and it's like all over the place. And then when you go to put it away, you don't have the time or the interest to like do that again. So you just kind of throw it in a bag and leave. So I learned like, I'm just going to take a bag and throw this stuff in. So that's why when I saw Vince's tackle bag, I thought I'm going to try that instead. And I love this because I just open up the top and I can get to everything without having to kind of mess around with all the little tiny compartments because everything is just like in there.
I'm on
Amazon done. I could literally throw it all back in there and I'm good to go.
Yeah, Mike, take a trip to the Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's that is near you. And there's one not far from you on the 400 around the 401. And you'll see all manner of tackle bags there.
And most of them are too big. I mean, they're a nice size, but then you kind of like put too much crap in it. So that's why I like this one because it's just big enough to take what I absolutely have to have and not feel like it's too tight.
Yeah.
And these are also reasonably priced.
Yeah.
I hate, my wife walks around with stuff in her hands all day. And like if we travel, it drives me crazy, right? And I want my hands free.
Yeah.
I want it on my back. So
by the way, that's another thing you mentioned going when you're doing your 10 gig stuff to like make one trip to the place where you're setting things up. So I've sort of figured out, okay, I've got 2 hands and a back. So I'm going to take probably a backpack with some stuff in it in a case with some stuff. So like I'll take my, the radio and maybe by the way, this guy, this will fit in the bottom of a backpack. So this and the radio bag all fit in a backpack. I mean, it's not lightweight. It's not like
there's only 188 tackle boxes and bags at Bass Pro.
Yeah, I'm sure one will have your name on it. So yeah, stuff in the backpack, stuff in the hand, and I hopefully in the chair, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, and that is another thing too. That for me, like in a backpack especially, is so important is that you have like you have some sense of organization inside that's either built into your backpack and or that you're carrying in, like you said, drop this pack into the bottom of your backpack. because you just don't want like a sea of things floating around
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
pack either. Like that, you want to avoid that or avoid that in your case or whatever. That's you really need to implement some organization.
So
Yeah.
one last comment on backpacks. I also figured out that I think about all of these, modules independent of the thing you carry them in.
Yeah.
So, for example, I've got a whatever it is, Swiss Gear backpack that's kind of like a very well made backpack that's not like a backpacking backpack. It's like a book bag, computer bag, right?
Mhm.
And so if I'm going to a park bench, that's the perfect thing to put a couple of these bags in because it's fairly big inside and fairly comfortable to carry it. But if I had to go like a mile somewhere, I would use a real backpacking like Mystery Ranch or an Osprey real backpack because I want the comfort of the backpack, not the computer bag. And of course the different modules might be a little bit different, but that way the modules are not always in the same backpack. Like in Stuart's stuff, he kind of had everything in the same container. I sort of separated the two ideas. So the various bags can like go in and out of different kinds of cases or backpacks.
Mhm.
So I think we've kind of beaten that to death. So Vince, thank you so much for putting the slides together, and it's really fun to talk about this stuff. And if you're one of the 3 people still listening to the show, we appreciate you sticking with us. So any final comments from anybody before we wrap up?
No,
Hearing nothing.
Yeah.
Paul?
I just want to thank Vince again. That was a great presentation.
Definitely.
And,
Thank you.
really well organized presentation. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
One thing I wanted to say, if you're struggling with trying to figure out how maybe you have an idea and you're not quite sure how to implement it, YouTube is a good resource because I was trying to figure out how, because the G90, the control head doesn't really have a bracket from Xiegu. So I spent like months trying to figure out how am I going to mount this thing on top of the plate and the radio underneath and everything. And then I came across a video on Ham Radio Tube. So Mike K8MRD, who showed how he split his G90 and built it into a little go box. And he said, you got to go over to Lowe's and in this weird specialized hardware box, they have these little brackets that fit perfectly. And I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
I said, that's exactly what I have been trying to find for months. So as soon as I got off of work, I drove to the next town to where the Lowe's is, and I walked back to the hardware shelves and I find the little thing that says specialized hardware. So I'm pulling through, and I find the little baggies with the brackets he talks about. I saw him at Hamvention. I opened up this box. I said, thank you. I said, I spent months trying to figure that out. And there you have. Here's what you need.
That's great advice.
Most likely somebody has figured out a way to do what you can't figure out to do.
Yep.
I'm going to end with one final thought here. And that is, if you're really not sure what you're going to do or how you're going to do it, whether it's build the box or bag it up or whatever, just pull the trigger and do it. Whatever occurs to you at the moment, give it a try. What's going to happen is you're going to go out and you're going to go, this was a terrible idea. I wish I did this instead. But you'll never know that until you try it. And I'll guarantee you that the first few times you do it, you're going to be like, man, this is too much stuff, or this is a terrible way to organize it, or I shouldn't have brought whatever whatever your epiphany is, you're only going to have it when you go to try to do it.
That's right.
And also remember that if you're going to like construct something like Paul, you're constructing your case, you're describing that, you're not sending it to the moon. You don't have to get it right the first time, So if you're not sure, if you don't have the perfect thing, just go with whatever you got. And then once you get out there, you go, oh, I could have gotten this instead, or you'll see someone else's example with a better idea. So just get out there and do it. You'll learn by doing.
Yep.
So with that,
Well said.
thanks everybody. It was great to have you all here. Thank you again, Vince. That was a great presentation. There'll be a lot of content in the show notes this episode, and hopefully everybody will get out there and start operating portable before the sunspots disappear.
Yep.
And with that in mind, from all of us at the Ham Radio Workbench 73.
Be good humans, since Mark's not here.
Be good humans, yep.